before there's likely to be another election. But most certainly their messaging has not been good. And Starmer, in fact, is making, the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, is making a big speech this week in which he's going, OK, yet another reset, but he's going to sort of fall back on the old Tony Blair idea of targets in key areas like health, education, the economy, crime, in which he's going to try to set out, look, we are going to have measurable target, measurable outcomes here, and the public can judge us on that. I mean, because one of the big problems is inevitably when they talk about fixing the foundations and all this stuff is it takes time. And for people to imagine, oh, right, well, there's the general election, we've got a lovely new, shiny new Labour government, we're going to get new hospitals, new prisons and new homes overnight. It just doesn't work like that. It takes years. I mean, it's a problem for any government, it has to be said, that, you know, back in the day, a week in politics was a long time. Well, in the social media age, 10 minutes in politics is jolly well pushing it. And so they have to grapple with this, and they have to hope that what they promised as a result of the increased taxation and investment will turn into tangible results, and hope that the punters will spot it in time so that when the next election comes around, they'll win it.
Part of the issue here, Peter, and it sort of it ties in with this, because you sort of can imagine the response to this is going to be, the Liz Kendall stuff is going to be, well, it's all within the rules, despite the fact people will turn up and say, well, it might be all right for some MPs to claim it if they're just on an MP's salary, but she's, you know, got a multi-millionaire husband and is living in a £4 million house in London most of the time, so she doesn't have to claim these are the heating bills. So there's all that going on. But whenever there's a huge criticism of the government, it feels like they're putting their head in the sand, and you don't get a proper response. You're not getting them properly talking to farmers, properly talking to pensioners, or whoever it may be. People will get fed up with that.
Well, you say we'll get fed up with this, Steve. Wow. They already have. I come back to the polling evidence. Although it does have to be said, it seems to be the fashion these days that the one thing it's best not to be in countries right across the Western world is don't be the government, because people are going to hate you almost as soon as you get in. And this is indeed is what's, I mean, it's hit this government sensationally. I mean, political honeymoons do tend to not last all that long. But in the case of Keir Starmer's, there's no getting round it, to quote Stella Gibbons of the Cold Comfort Farm fame. It seems to have been nasty, brutish and short.
Just you to quote Cold Comfort Farm, Peter. Good to see you. Thank you very much indeed.
Let us know what you think of that. Apparently, she is acting completely within the ministerial rules.
Yeah.
But she is claiming, what was it, up to £4,000, wasn't it?
It's just under £4,000.
Yeah. And that's a lot of money for heating.
And you don't have to claim it. Some MPs, if they're on, I know they're on a good salary, but if you've got two homes and a partner who isn't earning a lot of money or whatever else, then perhaps you do need a bit of help to run the second home. I get that. But when you are a multi-millionaire, which she is, through her husband, should you take a moral high ground and say, I'm not going to claim this tax credit? We don't need to claim it.
Yeah, and shouldn't she have thought that through before, you know, when looked at her own example, when she was actually knew she was going to take a decision that would upset a lot of pensioners by taking away their winter fuel allowance.
Yeah.
I mean, if I were struggling to heat my home and I were a pensioner, I'd feel very, very upset about that.
Yeah.
Really upset.
It's one rule for us, one rule for them.
For heating her second home.
Well, £350 a month is what the bills are for that.
That's expensive, isn't it? That's a
lot
of heating.
Money. £350 a month, well, we won't give pensioners £300 a year.
In a year, yeah. Let us know what you think. Right, we're going to catch up with the weather right now at 6:15. Here's Marco.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. We'll see quite a showery day across the UK today, quite breezy too, but temperatures well above the seasonal average. Low pressure is anchored towards the northwest of the UK at the moment, and that's feeding these bands of rain in from the west. Quite a cloudy picture on the whole across the UK today. Those bands of showers working their way east across most areas, interspersed by some bright or sunny spells. And the brisk winds we've seen, especially towards the north and northwest, gradually easing as we go through the day. Staying fairly blustery though, and pretty mild for the time of year too. Temperatures in the low to mid-teens Celsius, peaking at 14, perhaps even locally 15 Celsius down towards the south. 15 is 59 in Fahrenheit. As we go through the evening into the overnight period on Sunday, further bands of showers will work in from the west. We'll just start to see some cooler weather tucking in towards the far north of Scotland. So to end the day on Sunday, it's quite a showery picture here. Some of those showers on the heavy side, but notice temperatures holding up at 9 or 10 degrees, so still fairly mild. There'll be some clear spells across Northern Ireland, showers mainly out towards the west here. Whereas across Wales, a very showery end to the day. Again, some of those showers on the heavy side. Elsewhere across the south and southeast, a mixture of clear spells and some showers. And once again, fairly mild for the time of year. As we go through the evening into the overnight period, those bands of showers continue their way eastwards across all areas, and we do start to see some colder air just tucking into the far north, so the showers across the high ground in Scotland starting to turn wintry by Monday morning. Could see a touch of frost here by Monday morning too, but elsewhere temperatures holding up at 8 to 10 Celsius, so once again a pretty mild night for the time of year. As for Monday itself, the colder air across Scotland starts to make inroads further south, reaching northern England and parts of Northern Ireland through the day. Again, the showers turning increasingly wintry, particularly on the hills of Scotland, whereas across England and Wales, it's more a case of outbreaks of rain working their way in from the north at times, and staying quite mild here, with temperatures generally still close to double figures. Temperatures peaking then in the south at around about 9, 10, locally even 11 Celsius. 11 is 52 in Fahrenheit.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Time now for our biggest and best Great British giveaway this year. We're giving away £50,000. It could all be yours. Here's how.
It's the biggest, greatest Great British giveaway so far, with your chance to win a spectacular £50,000 in tax-free cash. 2025 could be amazing, with plenty of treats, holidays and fun on the horizon. How would you enjoy that cash? £50,000 will make someone our biggest ever winner. For another chance to win £50,000 cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Very good luck, because, my goodness, that's quite a prize. Now, the BBC is facing fresh questions over its handling of allegations first made against Gregg Wallace.
Yeah, a number of claims have come to light, some dating back to 2008. One producer claiming there appeared to be an acceptance of his behaviour.
Now, his lawyers insist the claims are entirely false.
Well, let's talk to former BBC editor John Mayer, who joins us now. And now, there's been these complaints from Asma Mir, who is a very well-known figure on the BBC. I mean, this all seems to be mounting up, doesn't it, John?
It does. There does seem to be a bit of case law coming along, doesn't it? This is Gregg's Frank Boff moment, isn't it? I mean, he's sadly probably dead in the water in terms of his career. You know, if you hire a barrow boy, you get a barrow boy. So why are people surprised? And this is the problem with talent. How do you cope with talent? You know, somebody with that amount so-called talent, he gets a lot of space to do what he wants. But is it only the BBC has presenters who misbehave? I ask myself. There must be others. You know, let's not use this as a way to bash the BBC, because it's not. I mean, the BBC has not been good in recent months. They've sacked 4.5 presenters, and 2.5 of them have resigned. So that's not desperately good. But you know, the stars seem to be coming out of the woodwork to damn Gregg, don't they? Poor man. people who haven't come out of the woodwork are the production company, who've made an enormous amount of money out of MasterChef. They've issued a bland statement, appointed some lawyers. When is somebody going to face up to camera and say, look, if this is true, we're very, very sorry? And there's also the danger of the herd mentality. Everybody's piling into poor Gregg. A poor man, anybody with a story to tell is telling it now. The latest one in the Daily Mail, she's very flaky, isn't she?
Oh, really? I mean, I think you... morning, John, by the way. We know each other of old, do we not? But, I mean, I don't know. The whole thing smacks of an acceptance of bad behaviour on the part of very big, very famous men. There's no doubt. It's beginning to show now, isn't it? I mean, complaints were made against him 16 years ago, it started.
Indeed.
And you only have to look at him and the way he behaves on his social media and everything, and you can't help but think there's an arrogance to this man that has been allowed to develop.
Indeed. I mean, as I said earlier, this is a problem with talent. If they've got talent and people want the talent, they'll give them an awful lot of slack. But it's not just men. There are women who misbehave who appear on television as well. But this is sexist, unacceptable behaviour by Gregg Wallace, and it shouldn't have been tolerated, and has been tolerated. And he's continued to have a career in more than one production company. Somebody should have pulled the plug a long time ago.
All right, but so in terms of this, I mean, you say it's not just the BBC, and no, it isn't. But does there need to be a change of culture now, and stuff that was acceptable 20, 30, 40 years ago now just needs to be ruled out?
There has been a change of culture, Stephen. It is ruled out, but poor Gregg seems to be a bit of a dinosaur in that. The culture change seemed to have swerved and missed him, doesn't it? Once a greengrocer, always a greengrocer in his case. No, I mean, yes, there has been a change of culture, but television, as you both know, is a very tough business. So people lose their tempers, people do things, and office romances happen.
I mean, at my time at the BBC, I remember being patronised absolutely dreadfully by some bosses, but never this sort of sexual harassment, which I can understand must have been quite, well, frightening and just very intimidating, and makes you dread going into work if you have to face it all the time. And I can't understand why a good boss, a good producer, a good editor wouldn't have taken him aside and said, this isn't on.
They did take him aside. Apparently, he has been warned in the past. But you're absolutely right. A good boss should have said, "This is not on, and if you do it again, you're out."
Again, talking of talent, and I mean, I totally accept that the presenters can be very hard to handle at times.
Not you, of course. Not you.
No, not us. We're easy peasy, as you know, John. However, the celebrities involved in this, they're also talent. To use the term, surely they could have said something. I mean, they're not shrinking violets.
They did. I mean, they could and should. I mean, and kudos to Kirsty Walk for going in front of the camera and saying it a bit after the event. But yes, they should have done. They have some power. Gregg has all the power in this, but they should have gone to the production company and said, look, this is not acceptable. But, let's remember, these are just allegations. The production company has appointed a firm of solicitors, but somebody needs to face up to the camera and says, look, if this is true, we're very sorry.
I mean, you've written a number of books about the BBC, asking whether it's in peril, whether it's in crisis, how it's, whether it has a future at all. And as we've said, it probably does. These things go on in other companies, but the BBC is sort of unusually big, isn't it? Sort of a bit like the NHS. It's unwieldy in its size, and as a result, its stars are very big stars indeed. Maybe it. What does this say about the future of the BBC and the way it handles these very, very big names?
The BBC is too easy of a target, as you well know. I mean, the trouble with the BBC, it's like an armadillo. When it's attacked, the shell comes over it, and it doesn't see any reason to respond. And they're absolutely poor at crisis management, absolutely poor at PR, and on all of these, from Jimmy Savile right through to Gregg Wallace, they've been poor. But don't forget the production company; they've been making money out of Gregg Wallace for a long time. They should actually face up and say sorry.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. John, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Well, Gregg Wallace's lawyers have strongly denied that he engages in sexually harassing behaviour, while the BBC said it will always listen if people want to make us aware of something directly.
Yeah. And that's the statement that you think, yeah, they say they've got robust, processes where they deal with it, but time and again, it seems that they don't.
Yeah, I don't know what to think.
But when you employ these massive egos, and of course that's what they are, that's what makes some of them very, very good on television.
Yes.
When you employ massive egos, they're very difficult to handle.
But isn't that getting a bit old-fashioned now? And we all know people who walk about with egos the size of small planets, and very unjustifiably in some cases.
Usually, yeah.
But you shouldn't kowtow to them, should you? Bosses kowtow to them and just let them get away with anything that they want. And sometimes you've just got to put your foot down, haven't you?
Well, I would have thought so, yes, especially in 2024/5.
Yeah.
Now, we shouldn't be putting up with it anymore. Obviously, we don't know all the details. We don't know why, whether Kirsty Walk, for instance, very, very professional person, we don't know why, did she complain at the time and was her complaint ignored whatever, we don't know.
Did she say something to him?
Yeah.
That's
she's big enough to walk off the programme.
Yeah,
she?
And we've all been, in our day-to-day lives, the majority of us have been at some point harassed or, touched up or whatever, and you either make a big complaint about it, a big fuss about it, or you just go, you laugh it off and just go, well, you just behave yourself.
Yeah, but if it happens again the next day, and again the next day, and again the next day, you can't just keep laughing it off.
No, but that's the point. You make a formal complaint.
I had a little complaint to an editor once, and he said to me, my dear, we have a lot of lovely lady presenters at the BBC, and we love them all. That was his answer.
No.
I won't forgive him for that.
Oh, I want to know who that is.
So maybe that's the sort of response that Kirsty Walk got.
Yeah, maybe. Right, still to come for you. Today marks the first day of Advent. We'll tell you all about it in just a moment.
Go to gbnews.com/shop now and take advantage of our biggest ever Black Friday sale with 25% off all items across our store and free shipping on orders worth £60 or more. There's never been a better time to grab something for the GB News fan in your life. From our signature clothing to drinkware, gifts, accessories and much, much more, you'll find the perfect present this festive season. Use the code BLACKFRIDAY25 on checkout at gbnews.com/shop for our best ever Black Friday deals.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark Meets at My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits.
Chemistry tonight is electric.
As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camila Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camila Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's the first day of Advent, and of course that marks the beginning of the Christmas period.
Now, Advent typically begins on the fourth Sunday before Christmas.
Now, for Christians, of course, it's a time of reflection and prayer.
We're joined now by historian Martin Whittock. A very good morning, it being the 1st of December. And so you don't say Happy Advent, do you? But it is a very important time, particularly in the Christian calendar.
Yes, it is. The word Advent comes from a Latin word, adventus, which means arrival, coming, appearing. And that translates a Greek word used in the New Testament, parousia, which means the royal presence. And at Advent, Christians look back, they prepare for Christmas because Christmas is coming. They think about what led up to Christmas. Often on the 4 Sundays before Advent, they have particular themes. In my church, we think about the patriarchs today, those who were at the beginning of the Jewish faith, which of course culminated in Jesus. Jesus was Jewish and in Christianity. Then we think about the prophets. Then we think about John the Baptist. Then we think about Mary on the 4th Sunday of Advent. And then Christmas Day, of course, we celebrate the birth of Jesus. So Advent looks back. It thinks about the first Christmas and we prepare for that and think about that. It also looks inward. It encourages people to think about where they stand in their lives with God and how they live their lives. And it looks forward because that Greek word parousia means, as I say, meaning the royal presence, also looks to the Christian belief that in time, Jesus will return and will bring a kingdom of justice and peace on earth. So Advent, arrival, preparing for Christmas, thinking of the past, thinking of myself, looking inwardly, looking forward to the future, past, inwardly, and present. That's what Advent is about in the Christian faith.
It's a shame, though, Martin, isn't it? And I do feel it, that for a lot of people, Advent is about what chocolate's behind the door.
Yes. I guess in many ways, Advent has gone the way of a lot of Christmas traditions, which is it's become something heavily commercialised. And I think that's true of so many things. What is perhaps interesting is that within the history of this Christmas season, this is a preparation period, and then Christmas starts the process. Whereas today in our modern world, and you'd have noticed, things have been in the shops in September, Christmas tends to start very, very early and culminates on the 25th of December, and then people jump forward into the new year. But traditionally, this was a time of, in many Christian communities, of fasting and of prayer and of reflection, and then the Christmas celebration started on the 25th of December, and then lasted for the famous 12 days of Christmas, after Christmas, in fact, which then culminated around January the 5th and the 6th, Epiphany, when Christians celebrate the coming of the wise men with their gifts to Jesus. What's interesting now is it all seems to happen before Christmas, then it hits its crescendo on the 25th, whereas traditionally it was preparation in this time, thinking and reflecting upon my life, the life of the world, my relationship with God and with other people. Then the festivities started on the 25th and they lasted for those 12 days. So it has been changed. And as you say, some of that has become very deeply commercialized. And the challenge is, as I say to my congregations, I'll be in church today, I'll be preaching quite a lot over the Christmas season, look for the reason for the season. Look for the reason for the season. And for us as Christians, it's the coming of Jesus into the world. That's how much God loves the world.
And one of the things I love about Advent is it has its own carols and hymns, different from Christmas carols and hymns. What's your favourite Advent carol?
That's a very good question. I like Hills of the North Rejoice. Oh, yeah. I'm also very, very fond of O Come, Emmanuel, and Ransom Captive Israel. And I think that again is that expectation that people are looking to God as the rescuer, and that's a long, long history in Judaism and in Christianity. Yeah, I think that's probably my favorite. Oh, come, Emmanuel, and Ransom Captive Israel. And I think we have to remember that there's more than just the traditional Christmas carols to this season as well.
Absolutely. Martin, thank you very much indeed. Well, if you're thinking, well, does all this resonate with me? Then pay attention to our special GB News Advent messages. We're doing one every day. And here's our first.
The GB News Advent Calendar, Day 1.
Hi, I'm Chris Tufnell. I'm the vicar of Uterbridge Parish Church near Sheffield. On Christmas Day 1997, I opened a present. It was a book, and on the cover was a picture of a train, a boy with a scar on his head, and a sign saying platform 9 3/4. It was, of course, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, the first in the major series. But I remember thinking, it'll never catch on. And so it stayed on my shelf gathering dust for years. People told me I should read it, but I didn't. Until I realised this Harry Potter thing was getting really quite big now. And so I opened the cover, began to read, and sure enough, I was soon hooked. I think it's all too easy for us to do the same with the story of the person Christmas is all about, Jesus Christ. It's clear his story has caught on, it's shaped the Western world and given us the values we cherish so much at Christmas. Most people have heard something about him, but few have actually read the story for themselves. If that's you, might it be time that you did? Happy Christmas.
I think that's brilliant. And Reverend Chris, I think, is brilliant. What a great message.
And it was truly great snow as well in that. Amazing. You can see all of our special Advent messages as Christmas approaches by visiting gbnews.com/Advent. And in the meantime, have a lovely Advent.
I'm going to go through the papers for you in a couple of minutes.
Headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight, every night from 11 p.m.
This is Miss Universe fans hailing the end of wokeness and crediting the Trump effect after a biological woman, there's still some of them around apparently, has won the 2024 crown. She's Miss Denmark, because obviously the last decade, you know, it's just been obese transgender smurfs from Papua New Guinea. They're the only people allowed to win any beauty contest, you know what I mean? You're not allowed to have any.
There's some of the trans women have won these. You definitely wouldn't say no.
No,
they look amazing.
I've seen but I've seen some of them that didn't, and some that were clearly just there out of
Have there been more than one trans woman? I didn't realise this.
Yeah.
Okay,
I've got a chart at home. This one isn't trans. Victoria Kjær Thielvig, 21 of Denmark. Everything about that description says attractive.
Nazis. Okay, yes. I have seen pictures of her. She is very attractive.
Yes.
She is. Yes. I don't know exactly how to put it, but she is kind of not retro or vintage or so. She's quite an old-fashioned notion of beauty, like just absolutely ice blue eyes.
No penis.
Absolutely extraordinary. Clear skin and gorgeous blonde hair. I mean, it's absolutely kind of mid-70s, beauty.
No, apparently the sanity's returned to the beauty pageant industry, so they can get back to, sexualising 4-year-olds and promoting anorexia like they used to. So
there is that,
She will earn an estimated $250,000 annual salary working full-time as Miss Universe and will live in a luxurious New York City apartment as she carries out her duties, which involve glass coffee tables and rich Saudi businessmen.
Glass coffee tables. And visiting other planets and solar systems and constellations, I would imagine, of Miss Universe.
Being concerned about animals.
Yes, absolutely, and wanting to bring about world peace. I miss those days.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Martin Daubney. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
6:40. Time for the papers this morning with our senior political commentator, Nigel Nelson, and former Conservative advisor, Claire Pearsall. You're saying that says political commentator there, Claire. Have you changed your title?
I haven't.
No.
You can call me whatever you like.
But you've both got a lovely Christmas tree behind you.
Yes.
So
there you go.
Festive.
I know you love it, Nigel.
Personalised Christmas trees.
Yeah. We're allowed to talk Christmas.
It's now December.
It's December
It's now the 1st of December, so Christmas can actually start here, yeah.
OK, well, let's start with the Mail on Sunday, because a lot of people might want to enjoy Christmas, but they won't be able to afford to pay to heat the house. Meanwhile, front page of the Mail on Sunday, there's a certain minister, Liz Kendall, who she's the one who was behind axing some of the winter fuel
payments. She was the
payments.
architect, yep.
And she is claiming for fuel payments herself for her second home, because as a minister, as an MP, she can have a second home. Is this unfair, and is it hypocrisy, or is it just acting within the rules?
Well, it's acting within the rules, and it's an allowance. Every MP gets it. So it's not as if that she's being singled out. So it would be a bit like companies pay various allowances to people. So you get, if you work in the capital, you get London waiting. If you bring your own equipment to work, you get a tool allowance.
Do you?
Yeah.
I wish I'd known that.
Well, I'll give you a chance to get a new allowance then. Obviously, if you're travelling a lot, you get a car allowance. So that's what business does. It's irrespective of what you might earn or how rich you are or anything like that. So I don't see anything particularly wrong with what she's done. I would like to have seen Rachel Reeves change the system whereby that £300 that was a flat rate was actually taxed. So she got some money back from people who could afford it. It didn't penalise the people at the bottom, rather than scrap it completely. But as far as these things, we're always having a go at MPs for money they're getting. But unless you go back to 1911, when they weren't paid at all, which I think a lot of people would like, I think you've got to allow them. That's what the modern world is like. You've got to allow them the extra...
It doesn't smell right. It doesn't smell right, does it?
No, and that's it. And I think the use of the word allowances, I'm not convinced that that's the right word. Yes, there are expenses you can claim, doesn't mean you have to claim them. It's not as if she is given the money and all MPs are given the money. You have to physically submit bills and claim that money back. Now, she could take the view, as a good socialist, that she shouldn't.
Especially if she's married to a multi-millionaire.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's like arguing that Rishi Sunak, who was a billionaire, shouldn't have taken his salary when he was Prime Minister.
There's nothing to do with the salary. We're talking about something that the Labour...
He didn't have to take it. I mean, under your argument about they don't have to take this money, he didn't have to be paid. Some ministers aren't paid.
He wasn't cutting other people's salaries, though, was he? You have a Labour government who is just taking off...
Give us the worst tax in 35 years.
OK, and obviously Labour are doing such a tremendous job at not taxing us any further at the moment, aren't they? They're taking £300 off the most vulnerable people coming into winter, whilst then taking an extortionate amount of money for heating a property that she doesn't live in all of the time. You could take the view that she doesn't have to, given that she earns quite a good salary as an MP, top that up with a ministerial salary from what her partner also earns. Between the pair of them, they could probably pay the fuel bills for the second home.
Stop. I mean, do you actually say, look, MPs should fund their second home?
No, I'm not saying that whatsoever. But if you are a Labour government and you are suggesting that things should be fair and you need to redistribute wealth, you cannot then be hypocritical and say, apart from my heating bill for a house that I don't live in, the second home.
She must have the heating on all the time.
Well, she must.
Not there at £350.
It's an enormous bill.
We don't know how often she's there. It is in her constituency, and because she has a constituency where she does, she has to have two homes, and that applies again to every MP of every party. So the same thing applies to Conservative MPs, some of whom are very rich.
But if you've been waiting for years to get into government, and then you get a job as Work and Pensions Secretary, and you know you're going to to axe those winter fuel payments for some pensioners, wouldn't you think maybe I should actually look at my own fuel payments and not claim them this year?
But do you not then get a situation whereby other MPs would feel the same way? So Keir
Well, why
Starmer
not, if they can afford it?
But it is a matter for them then personally to have a look at. But if you are a party looking to distribute wealth across the country because you don't think things are fair, then you shouldn't be able to take it yourself.
All right, well, on that note, we need to leave it because we've got to take a short break. We are going to be back with more of these two in just a moment.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This week is Chocolate Week, the ultimate celebration of everything rich, sweet and indulgent.
Yes, and we now have the best person in the studio with us to satisfy all of your chocolate cravings. We're joined now by master chocolatier Ollie the Choc. Ollie,
hello.
Really
Hey,
good
Ollie.
to see you this
Thank you
morning.
for having me.
And you brought some of your chocolate in with you.
I did. I brought some tasting samples. You're very welcome to help yourself.
So what have you got here? Tell us.
So this is my signature chocolate. I call it the Holy Grail. It's got sea salt flakes, crushed Oreo, caramel fudge pieces, very Moorish.
I love a caramel and salt combo, just, you know. I feel like you see it everywhere now. Look.
You won't be disappointed.
Look, I want everyone to see a close-up of this one. Can we get a shot on this one? So this is Oreo, there we are, caramel and salt. Do you want to try some?
You go first.
Help yourselves. And then this bar of chocolate is a little bit of a wild card. That's a mystery flavour, so...
OK, I love a mystery.
I'm not going to tell you what that is.
Hold on this one. This one's amazing.
Are you?
Oreo, caramel.
That's my biggest seller.
I'll keep my palate clean for this. So this is a mystery flavour.
You've got to guess what that is.
Is that a nut in there, I see? Right, here we go. Ready?
I'm not saying anything.
Talk us through.
Very crunchy.
For me, I'm all about textures in chocolate.
Me too.
It has got a good crunch to it, hasn't it? It's not the kind of flavour that you would expect.
Oh, I can't get it.
Is it sweet? Is it salty?
Wait, no, it's salty, yeah.
It's
OK,
salty.
Hang on, bit more.
OK.
Bit more.
I mean, just keep going.
Crisps? Wait,
It is crispy, it's crunchy. Could it be crisps?
I think it could be crisps. Yeah, it's crisps.
So what flavour?
Salt and vinegar. Cheese and onion.
Yes,
Salt
nailed
and
it. You know.
Oh, you're much better than me.
Love that.
Do you know what? I think I've got a bit of a cold, so my taste buds are
Oh, you're going to blame that, are you?
That's my excuse. That's delicious.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+ and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So we're going through the papers at 6:49 with Claire Pearsall and her little sugar puff, Nigel Nelson, as she calls him. Sunday Express, Claire, the MOD.
The MOD, this is a very interesting story, and I think that people are going to wonder what on earth they're thinking. Buying your kit for all of your armed forces, so all of the uniforms, the different combat outfits, even flying suits from China. Just shows our reliance upon China for absolutely everything.
But it's ridiculous. I mean, we're trying to grow the economy.
Yeah.
Surely growing the economy means you'd fund stuff from our own manufacturers.
You would have thought so. It is an astonishing decision. So it may well be cheaper if to get it from China.
That's the key. But that's the
I think
important
it's.
thing, isn't it?
But I also
It's
think
value
that's
for
a
money.
really, really short-term view. Because what happens if China, for example, went into Taiwan and started invading it.
Well, they're not planning to do that till 2049. So on the basis of that,
so that's okay then. Do you believe that?
Well, at the moment, the ambition of China is to get Taiwan back by 2049. I suppose they could go in earlier. The point here is we're talking about uniforms, clothes, sort of boiler suits, things like that. If we were buying computerised missiles from China, I'd be really worried. I mean, that they, if they're not exactly an enemy, they're not a friend, so we shouldn't be doing that. When it comes down to some bit of clothing,
no,
I don't think that is a major problem. You know, our high streets are full of Chinese clothing.
But shouldn't we be using British companies, especially if you want to be able to grow?
If you can get it for value for money, yeah.
But you can't always justify it on if they're cheaper. This government should be supporting British industry.
Absolutely.
And if they're not cheap enough, they should be having words about it and try and make it more efficient. But it's British clothing industry should be being supported.
It should, and therefore you can check the quality, you can check the working arrangements, you can make sure that it's not slavery conditions that people are working in to produce the uniforms. So you have a lot more control over it. But you also should be looking at British businesses to be able to supply those goods. I would love to see if the MOD have ever had conversations with British suppliers saying, we would love to, but the price is too high, can we have a chat about it? Because I'm sure that there are a lot of suppliers out there who would look at their pricing structures and say, actually, to have a contract with the MOD would be great for our business and great for the country.
But what if that happened and they said, we can do this for 40 million? Would we then be kicking off saying the government's wasting £3 million on clothing that it doesn't need to?
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? When you could actually buy rifles with that. I mean, the MOD, like any other government department, has a finite budget, and so what they're trying to do is get the value for money for the taxpayer, and this is the way they're doing it. And as I say, I don't think a few bits of clothing are a major problem with our relationship with China.
Doesn't it make you feel a little bit uncomfortable that we're going to China for all of these clothing and kit?
I don't think it's anything new, that we've actually taken stuff. We've taken stuff from them before. So our relationship with China is a very complicated one, obviously, but I think that we must maintain that relationship ultimately for the sake of world peace.
It's one of these things. It doesn't smell right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be reasons for it, but let's look into it. Let's try and sort it out. Nigel, in all of this, the Observer says the Prime Minister wants to have a Labour reset.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I should think so, frankly.
It's not really a reset. It's more a restatement of what he called his 5 missions when he went into the election. So it's things like building a lot of new homes, so that means dealing with the planning laws to be able to do it, setting up GB Energy, which he's done, NHS waiting lists, which he needs to bring down. This could be a bit thrown off course by assisted dying. What he calls taking back the streets, well, that's 13,000 more police officers and support, and then breakfast clubs in every primary
Why does he need
school.
to restate it?
I think because he's running.
Wasn't that long ago that he only just got in?
Yeah, it's more to keep reinforcing that he is on a mission-led government.
Why doesn't he just get on?
That's the best reaction ever.
I can see my wife was actually convinced by that one.
So he wants to turn his 10-year missions, which he's set out, which everybody understood, into something he's referring to as concrete, measurable milestones. Now, that's a complete word salad, isn't it? What does it mean? So he's turning something into a vague promise, into something concrete that he's going to be judged by?
He's not going to do a concrete plinth like Ed Miliband did.
I think he is. That's the route we're going down.
Are out now after
the Edstone. Yeah.
The Edstone, yeah.
But why do you need a reset 4 months in?
Well,
Just
there's a question. We've got to leave it there. Thank you both. We'll see you a little bit later on for more fun and games.
Right, now we want to find out about the weather. Here's Marco.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. We'll see quite a showery day across the UK today. Quite breezy too, but temperatures well above the seasonal average. Low pressure's anchored towards the northwest of the UK at the moment, and that's feeding these bands of rain in from the west. Quite a cloudy picture on the whole across the UK today. Those bands of showers working their way east across most areas, interspersed by some bright or sunny spells. And the brisk winds we've seen, especially towards the north and northwest, gradually easing as we go through the day. Staying fairly blustery though, and pretty mild for the time of year too. Temperatures in the low to mid-teens Celsius, peaking at 14, perhaps even locally 15 Celsius down towards the south. 15 is 59 in Fahrenheit. As we go through the evening into the overnight period on Sunday, further bands of showers will work in from the west. We'll just start to see some cooler weather tucking in towards the far north of Scotland. So to end the day on Sunday, it's quite a showery picture here. Some of those showers on the heavy side, but notice temperatures holding up at 9 or 10 degrees, so still fairly mild. There'll be some clear spells across Northern Ireland, showers mainly out towards the west here. Whereas across Wales, a very showery end to the day. Again, some of those showers on the heavy side. Elsewhere across the south and southeast, a mixture of clear spells and some showers, and once again fairly mild for the time of year. So as we go through the evening into the overnight period, those bands of showers continue their way eastwards across all areas, and we do start to see some colder air just tucking into the far north, so the showers across the high ground in Scotland starting to turn wintry by Monday morning. Could see a touch of frost here by Monday morning too, but elsewhere temperatures holding up at 8 to 10 Celsius, so once again a pretty mild night for the time of year. As for Monday itself, the colder air across Scotland starts to make inroads further south, reaching northern England and parts of Northern Ireland through the day. Again, the showers turning increasingly wintry, particularly on the hills of Scotland, whereas across England and Wales, it's more a case of outbreaks of rain working their way in from the north at times, and staying quite mild here, with temperatures generally still close to double figures. Temperatures peaking then in the south at around about 9, 10, locally even 11 Celsius. 11 is 52 in Fahrenheit.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
You could be joining the Great British Giveaway list of winners with your chance to grab a fantastic £50,000 in tax-free cash. We've made loads of winners this year, and you could be our next.
Hi, I'm Angela from Wigan, and I won £30,000 with the Great British Giveaway. It happens to people like me.
For your chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Go to gbnews.com/shop now and take advantage of our biggest ever Black Friday sale with 25% off all items across our store and free shipping on orders worth £60 or more. There's never been a better time to grab something for the GB News fan in your life. From our signature clothing to drinkware, gifts, accessories and much, much more, you'll find the perfect present this festive season. Use the code BLACKFRIDAY25 on checkout at gbnews.com/shop for our best ever Black Friday deals.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking... This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment. This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory. Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark meets and My Take at 10. Democracy is a funny old thing. And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it. Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it. That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. A bitter blow for 10 million pensioners.
The Work and Pension Secretary, she's the one who axed the winter fuel payments for some pensioners, is branded a hypocrite after it's been revealed that her heating bill is funded by the taxpayer.
It's Liz Kendall. She claimed just under £4,000 for a second home. There's an estimated 100,000 pensioners will be forced into poverty.
Fresh claims emerge as the BBC failed to act on Gregg Wallace's alleged misconduct, with some claims dating back to more than 16 years ago.
The Irish general election exit poll reveals the race is too close to call, with Sinn Féin holding a narrow lead.
Nearly 650 candidates balloted out over 3 weeks for 174 seats that will shape Ireland's future for the next 4 years, and they're set for a coalition government.
The Princess of Wales speaks of love in the darkest times in a message ahead of her Christmas Carol concert.
Islands in a stream, that is what we are, no one in between.
And later we'll be joined by the viral TikTok sensation 92-year-old Edwin Rayner, the singing Granddad.
As social media influencers advise their followers on how to make the most of claims for universal credit, we're asking, is it time to actually limit sickness benefit?
Hello, good morning. We'll see some outbreaks of rain working their way from west to east across the UK today. It will be mild, but also quite breezy. I'll have all the details later.
It's just gone 7 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Anne Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast.
You will have noticed we're marking Christmas. Well, it is the 1st of December. Why not?
You're allowed to now.
So we've been talking about robins this morning.
Yes.
You've been sending us some lovely pictures of
Because
robins.
robins are doing very well. They are now the 3rd most seen species of bird in British gardens.
Lovely.
They're doing very, very well. And, of course, they remind you of Christmas.
Of course they do. Andrea's been in touch. Morning, Andrea. She says, this is the robin that's been visiting us for 3 years. Hopped into my office on Friday, not at all frightened of us, sits there looking at us, even has a nap and put its wing over its head.
So it comes
Beautiful
inside. That's amazing. Now, Roz has also sent a photo in.
That's beautiful.
Showing that lovely robin inspecting the camera itself.
It's a very close-up shot.
They're so friendly, robins, aren't they? More than any other bird, I think.
Yeah, absolutely gorgeous. Raymond has sent this one in. Morning, Raymond. Oh, it's a little video saying, I've got this. I took this clip during COVID on my run, and I used to feed this robin every morning. Never flew away and was always waiting.
That's the lovely thing about robins. They seem to learn, don't they?
Can't see what you've given it to eat, but...
Looks like a bit of bread.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But it's eating away there in the snow back in COVID times. But beautiful.
That's when I think that's the point. Whenever we see a robin, you try and get your camera out, and there's something very special about robins, but particularly at this time of year. So if you've got a lovely robin photograph to show us, then please do send it. And the way to send it this time is gbviews@gbnews.com, because that's the only way you can get pictures to us.
Yes, and someone here, very clever, can still access that mailbox.
Oh, Betty says, I get a robin to eat from my hand every day.
Oh.
And I think that's the point. They learn.
Oh, that'd be nice. That'd be nice. There's just something about them.
Yeah, there really is, yeah.
Anyway, this might put a smile on your face. You may need it today after you've heard the news about the Cabinet Minister, Liz Kendall. She's been branded a hypocrite for removing winter fuel payments for 10 million pensioners, which, of course, we know about, whilst bills at her second home are being paid for by us.
Yes, the Work and Pension Secretary says she is allowed to claim costs for the second property in her Leicester West constituency.
Well, the most recent documents reveal taxpayers covered just under £4,000 in energy costs, as over 100,000 pensioners look like they could well be forced into poverty this winter.
Joining us now, political commentator Peter Spencer. Whilst it may be within the rules, Peter, it's very uncomfortable reading to read that she's been able to claim £4,000 for fuel when she has denied a very much smaller amount to a lot of pensioners.
Absolutely right. And of course, MPs' expenses, they're entitled to claim them because most of them have constituencies outside London. They need a second home somewhere within spitting distance of the Palace of Westminster, and so they're allowed to claim their expenses for these places. But expenses for MPs have always been a touchy subject. I mean, it feels to me only yesterday that the Daily Telegraph did this monumental expose. Remember the duck pond scandal, which was probably the worst, and it sort of seemed to go on forever with case after case. And I can remember so vividly and so horribly, really, how I'd have to stand up and blather on about the latest scandal-ridden MP when I'd had about 2 seconds to read the copy in advance and then talk about it as though it was a subject of lifetime study. But in the broader sense, when it comes to the Liz Kendall story, of course, there is a fairly widespread feeling in government now that actually cutting the winter fuel allowance for the vast majority of pensioners was a pretty bad call because of the fact that the political cost was far outweighed the financial gain to the Treasury. And of course, behind all that, there is the ongoing reality that pensioners are widely regarded collectively as a sacred cow. And the one thing you don't do with sacred cows is slaughter them. All that said, it's no great surprise that Keir Starmer is very much in a moving swiftly on mode. He's making a big speech in the next few days, probably Thursday, we think, in which he's going to talk about specific discernible targets for the government to make things better for people in health, education, crime prevention, and a few other things. And all this fits to the narrative of the bringing back of a fair number of Tony Blair's old guard giving advice, because Tony Blair was very big on targets, which were probably pretty irritating, especially to the ministers who were trying to make them happen. But at the same time, he did manage to win a couple of elections. So that, I think, is the way forward. And it fits in with a broader picture of the government trying to get its messaging act together, because there's little doubt about it, up until now, it hasn't been very good at it.
Yeah, well, but that's a key point, and I know people won't like hearing it, but the messaging side, the PR side of this is very important, because and I wonder if this is going to be a mistake, even in just on this refocus line, Peter, in that with something like this, they're just going to say, aren't they, well, it's all within the rules. Nevertheless, let's look at how we're re-messaging and refocusing. Whereas what people really need is for this to be addressed, even if they don't change it, even if she doesn't have to pay the money back or they talk the way out of it, but for them to actually address these concerns head on.
They haven't been particularly good at optics since they've been in government during the summer. We think of the freebies that Keir Starmer got and the clothes and the gigs and all the rest of it. And it simply hasn't looked all that good, even though they haven't actually broken rules specifically. And here again, I think what we're going to find behind the scenes is a far greater focus on making sure the optics are better than they have been. And you trace back to, you remember that the Chief of Staff at Downing Street used to be Sue Gray, who was a former top civil servant and very good at walking the walk, but she was very clearly not all that good at talking the talk. And the person who's replaced her, Morgan McSweeney, is very much focused on getting that message out. And that goes in tandem with a much bigger focus on control from number 10. Sue Gray's attitude was, to a large extent, a matter of, well, let the ministers get on with it and do, whatever they've got to do. But now, with a bigger focus on number 10 controlling things, the idea is that everything will look a great deal more specific and a great deal more focused, and will give the impression, at least, that it's much more clearly determined to produce results.
OK, Peter, thanks very much indeed. Good to see you today. The more I get from this, what strikes me is it feels very much like them and us at the moment. And, I mean, maybe that's a little bit unfair, but then Peter's talking about all the stuff that's going on behind the scenes. And we know it goes on, but again, that feels like it feels like we're being manipulated, doesn't it? Well, we need to make sure that we're getting all this sort of messaging right, and so people buy into it. And I know that's reality. I know that's how the world works and how politics works. But the fact we're now at a point where we're discussing it, it makes it even more feel like it's, well, it's them and us, and what is going on, and are they actually connected and understanding what British people are going through and want? And
For all the talk, are they getting the messaging right? It seems to me they're not.
Not at the moment.
But maybe it's because they just don't have to at the moment. They're just barging on with what they want to get done. They don't have to face the consequences for quite a few years yet.
No, that's true. But if they don't sort it out, and pretty rapidly, these things hang on. And, I mean, as Nigel Nelson was saying earlier on, Keir Starmer went into all this with his 10-year plan. Well, he's going to have a 5-year plan if he's not careful, because the way it's looking at the moment, you can't imagine them winning an election if there was one tomorrow or in 5 years.
And there's no doubt that everybody at home, you're getting in touch saying this reset that Keir Starmer's going to do. Why would he have to do it this early?
Yeah.
And it sort of acknowledges, or you feel it acknowledges the fact that they're not getting on with what they wanted to get on with, so they've got to restate it.
Yeah.
I don't
Yes. It does just feel, of all the criticisms, that Keir Starmer just seems to be brushing them off rather than addressing. And we all know it's like if you get stuck on a train, what you want to know is what's going on rather than just sat there and not hearing anything. And it's the same sort of feeling, isn't it?
I wonder how they're feeling. I wonder how they're feeling in Ireland, because the results of the Irish general election are very edgy. Nobody quite knows how it's going to go.
No, there's been the exit poll, of course, and the three main political parties, Sinn Féin, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, all basically neck and neck.
Yeah, and this is all happening as their leaders have all been re-elected to serve in the Irish Parliament.
So currently the counting suggests a return of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael as a coalition government.
Yeah, it all sounds very complicated. Let's go over now to our GB News reporter there, Doogie Beattie. Can you explain what's happened, Doogie?
Well, good morning from Dublin, Anne and Stephen. And this is something that people in the UK have asked for continually, the smaller parties, that is a PR election. Now, PR elections are, they're a mathematical wonder, actually, but mostly it's about training your electorate to vote the right way. So, it's transfer of votes from 1, 2, 3 candidates all standing in the same constituency, but you must make sure that they transfer on the right way. Number 1, number 2, number 3, and not go up and down the ballot paper to other people. I spent yesterday here in the RDS behind me with the counts going on. It'll open again at 9 o'clock this morning. And I wandered around looking at some of the ballot papers, and for Fianna Gael and Fianna Fáil, it was very, very strange. The votes were transferring from maybe 1 for Fine Gael and 2 and 3 for Fianna Fáil. That is strange, because that would be like Conservative Party voters voting for Labour. So it would really suggest that the Irish electorate are treating them as one party. Now, Sinn Féin have come out, they have topped the poll in most areas that they've stood, but they're experts at this. They've done this in Northern Ireland for years and years, and when you look at their ballot papers, people voting 1, 2, 3, they really are following that line and bringing in second and third candidates. So we'll not really know the shape of the government probably till about 1 o'clock today. But in that it looked like Sinn Féin will be the largest party. But will they have enough to make that 88 seats? Because the Dáil, it's the biggest Dáil urn that has ever been. The 34th Dáil will be 174 seats. To control a majority with safety, you will need 88. That will not happen for either of the three parties. So they will have to go looking for coalition partners. And really where they're going to look for them is in amongst the independents that look set on course for about 27 seats, Labour, and unfortunately for the Greens, as the Lib Dems will tell you, they were the junior partners in the last coalition government here, and it appears that they have lost 11 seats and now may only return one of their politicians, and that is a big hit for them as how they reacted in the last Dáil. Others are struggling to get back to their seats. The Minister for Agriculture and the Minister for Health are both really touch and go whether they will get back in again. So you can see that the population here have really looked and said, we don't like this and we don't like that, and they've decided to tactically vote and take out those that they didn't think were doing a great job. But in this time, over the next 4 years for Ireland, it is very important because of a number of things. We have huge agreements coming in from Europe on importation of food with Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay and Bolivia. And of course, Ireland's one of their biggest industries is agriculture, so they'll have to get that right. And of course, Donald Trump is going to put tariffs on any goods coming back into America, and Ireland is full of American companies to back their economy. So all to play for. We will see a coalition government, and you can be guaranteed that negotiations have already started with those three major parties.
I'll bet. Doogie, thanks very much indeed.
Now, Sir Keir Starmer, our Prime Minister, of course, is going to meet the Greek Prime Minister next week, and we're told he is open to the idea of at least discussing the return of the Elgin Marbles. I mean, this has been running on for decades and decades and decades.
Apparently, there is it's written in law that our institutions, like the British Museum or whatever, can't just decide themselves to give the marbles away, give them back, give them away, however you choose to put it. But apparently there is a loophole in that law which says that if there is a moral imperative somewhere in there, then they may be able to. And that's why at the moment there are some headlines suggesting that maybe Keir Starmer is going to agree in some way to give them back.
So we're asking today, in our poll of the day, do you think the Elgin Marbles should be returned to Greece? We're bringing the live results throughout the day as they're coming in. We'll have the final result in Nana's show later. If you're watching on the TV, you can scan that QR code you can see on your screen. If you're listening on the radio and you want to take part, please do. Go to gbnews.com/poll.
And now at 18 minutes past 7, time for the weather with Marco.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. We'll see quite a showery day across the UK today, quite breezy too, but temperatures well above the seasonal average. Low pressure's anchored towards the northwest of the UK at the moment, and that's feeding these bands of rain in from the west. Quite a cloudy picture on the whole across the UK today. Those bands of showers working their way east across most areas, interspersed by some bright or sunny spells. And the brisk winds we've seen, especially towards the north and northwest, gradually easing as we go through the day. Staying fairly blustery though, and pretty mild for the time of year too. Temperatures in the low to mid-teens Celsius, peaking at 14, perhaps even locally 15 Celsius down towards the south. 15 is 59 in Fahrenheit. As we go through the evening into the overnight period on Sunday, further bands of showers will work in from the west. We'll just start to see some cooler weather tucking in towards the far north of Scotland. So to end the day on Sunday, it's quite a showery picture here. Some of those showers on the heavy side, but notice temperatures holding up at 9 or 10 degrees, so still fairly mild. There'll be some clear spells across Northern Ireland, showers mainly out towards the west here. Whereas across Wales, a very showery end to the day. Again, some of those showers on the heavy side. Elsewhere across the south and southeast, a mixture of clear spells and some showers. And once again, fairly mild for the time of year. But as we go through the evening into the overnight period, those bands of showers continue their way eastwards across all areas, and we do start to see some colder air just tucking into the far north, so the showers across the high ground in Scotland starting to turn wintry by Monday morning. Could see a touch of frost here by Monday morning too, but elsewhere temperatures holding up at 8 to 10 Celsius, so once again a pretty mild night for the time of year. As for Monday itself, the colder air across Scotland starts to make inroads further south, reaching northern England and parts of Northern Ireland through the day. Again, the showers turning increasingly wintry, particularly on the hills of Scotland, whereas across England and Wales, it's more a case of outbreaks of rain working their way in from the north at times and staying quite mild here, with temperatures generally still close to double figures. Temperatures peaking then in the south at around about 9, 10, locally even 11 Celsius. 11 is 52 in Fahrenheit.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Oh, sorry, I'm just having...
Take your sugar.
I'm going hypo.
Oh, are you?
So bear with me. So I hate sugar in tea, but I'm having to have sugar in tea.
OK, well...
My bloods have dropped, so you better do this next bit. In case I lose the ability to speak.
Yes, or you speak too fast.
Oh, is that what I'm doing?
Yeah, just a little.
It's terrible. It's like being drunk going hypo.
Is it?
Yeah.
Not pleasant, though.
No, it's not. No, not nicely drunk.
Well, look, I'll tell everybody about the great British giveaway. As Stephen stirs his tea. You could win 50 grand. It's the most we've ever given away. Here's how you can do it.
It's the biggest, greatest Great British giveaway so far, with your chance to win a spectacular £50,000 in tax-free cash. 2025 could be amazing, with plenty of treats, holidays and fun on the horizon. How would you enjoy that cash? £50,000 will make someone our biggest ever winner. For another chance to win £50,000 cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Go to gbnews.com/shop now and take advantage of our biggest ever Black Friday sale with 25% off all items across our store and free shipping on orders worth £60 or more. There's never been a better time to grab something for the GB News fan in your life. From our signature clothing to drinkware, gifts, accessories and much, much more, you'll find the perfect present this festive season. Use the code BLACKFRIDAY25 on checkout at gbnews.com/shop for our best ever Black Friday deals.
Britain's newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
A Tesco store on a Scottish island has defied locals by ignoring pleas to stay closed on Sundays.
Tesco's has said that no member of staff in Stornoway would be forced to work on a Sunday and that it had received a significant amount of positive reaction to its plans.
Well, let's talk now to the Minister of the Reformed Presbyterian Church, Reverend Kenneth Stewart. Good morning to you, Reverend Stewart. You're trying to keep Sunday special, and if Tesco are going to open up, that means it won't be quite as special for you.
Well, yes, good morning, and thanks for having me on. Yes, Tesco, for some reason, they claim it's not economic advantage, but for some reason they've decided to go against hundreds of years of tradition on this island and the deeply held religious convictions of many, many people, including, of course, their own customers who are really grieved by this decision. We come obviously from the standpoint that a day of rest is effectively mandatory. It's a human right, along with the other 10 commandments which have undergirded our moral and legal fabric in society. It actually enshrines the human right to a day of rest. And of course, in the UK, that's been eroded for many, many years. Incidentally, it's still far more respected on the continent. But for us here, the Sabbath or the day of rest has been very, very important. It's not just what we do, it's who we are. And for some reason, Tesco have decided just to go against that.
And Reverend Stewart, we were actually talking about this earlier, how in European countries, I mean, even in France, which is a secular country, still very few shops will open on a Sunday.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about.
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now, it's 7:25, and what we're calling, or what have been dubbed, online sickfluencers are helping their followers maximise sickness claims, with figures showing more than 15,000 people are being signed off work every week.
Now, some social media accounts have received millions of hits, so people are taking advantage of the system. Well, that's the only conclusion you can come to, maybe. Should we, therefore, limit sickness benefits?
Oh, right, we've got both our guests ready to go this morning, which is political consultant Joseph Robertson and Labour commentator James Matthewson. Good to see you both this morning. Joseph, what should we do about this? I mean, aren't people entitled to make sure that they are using all the tools to get what they deserve?
Yeah, I mean, it's not so much about that. Obviously, we want people who are seriously sick to have those opportunities. But the problem with this is, of course, that they could be taken out of the opportunity to have that if the system is under too much strain, because people are trying to, let's say, game the system and turn this more from a choice into something that could be almost a lifestyle way of being. And I think that's what this particular TikTok trend could do, which is start to create this almost Munchausen by internet effect, where you've got everybody trying to capitalise, perhaps not necessarily fraudulently, I wouldn't go that far all the time, but certainly because they are catastrophising their own condition on the basis of what they're seeing online, perhaps without the proper medical expertise that they should be seeking. And I think that's one of the balances we've got to get right. I don't think that people are all the time as sick as perhaps they are telling people, because it is quite a nice thing to not have to work, right? So we've got to try and find a way where the system becomes more meritorious, there's less kind of openness to potential fraud, and it's certainly not a viral trend on TikTok to tell people how they can access benefits more easily.
So, James, how do you think that this can be monitored so that it is indeed fair and that people aren't cheating the system?
Well, I think firstly we have to acknowledge that the only reason anybody is in a situation where they need guidance or information on how to not game the system, but how to try and get what they're entitled to, is because the system is so difficult and it is designed to try and keep people out. Anybody who has tried to do a PIP application for personal independence payments, anybody who's tried to do one of those applications will know just how difficult it is if you've tried to do one for a loved one in support or tried to do one for yourself. And the thing is, people have a natural tendency to try and play things down when they do these applications, okay? So having worked in MPs' offices, I've seen MPs who have supported people with those applications and caseworkers. In the northeast of England, when I first came up working for MPs, we would see coal miners who literally couldn't brush their teeth in the morning because their hands were so rigid, from conditions like DMV, where they've basically played down how bad their condition is out of pride, because so many people in this country feel incredibly prideful about their situation, and they don't want to say how bad their situation is a lot of the time. So these sickfluencers, as they're so called, are simply doing what many MPs and caseworkers have done across the country for many years now, which is try to offer that guidance to people to be able to say, look, you need to do do this, you need to do this, you need to say X, Y, and Z. You need to think about it on your worst possible day as opposed to just any other day. Otherwise, you simply will not get access to it because
that's all right. Okay, let's put that to Joseph, because isn't that a valid point, Joseph? I mean, we immediately assume with this that it is about gaming the system. Well, actually, perhaps it isn't. Perhaps it is just about giving people knowledge that they need to get what they are entitled to.
Yeah, I mean, look, you've got to strike a balance between compassion for those who are genuinely ill and what we're seeing here, which I'd say is a glorification in some ways of trying to access the system. I mean, I wouldn't say that this is particularly, what's being spoken about there. I think this is more the other end of the spectrum where this goes too far and people are actually constantly trying to find new ways to perhaps prolong something that they don't necessarily need, or trying to find ways to almost be part of a community that sees themselves as put down in some way and therefore becomes part of that, like I said, this almost Munchausen by internet situation where you've got people who could actually go out and achieve something if they were given the right medical guidance. And also, to go back to the point about it being MPs that help constituents, that's kind of appropriate, isn't it? So people who know how the legal system works, people who are already in those positions to make those choices, medical professionals, people in Parliament. I don't think it should be down to TikTok influencers to tell you how to go and gain your benefits. Obviously, there's a place for that. But if that becomes viral, if that becomes a trend, what we are going to see is thousands of people hopping onto that. And then that becomes a problem for the system. I don't think that the system should be gearing up towards trying to give out as much welfare as possible. I think that it should be in some way gate-kept, because obviously that means the people who really need it do get it, and those who are just coming in with some claim, which might be very often to do with a lifestyle choice, because of course categories like mental illness and obesity are very, very hard to define in today's day and age, that actually the government is applying the money to the right people who genuinely, as was said, can't get up and brush their teeth in the morning for whatever reason. So there is a very fine balance to strike, and I don't think this is it.
Can I come in on that quickly? Yeah. Because I find it fascinating, because only somebody who has no knowledge of the system would have a concern with this. We're talking, and let me just put this in context for your viewers, about £108 a week maximum. We're talking about £108 a week. The worst case scenario, that's what we're talking about. The money
and
that is
15,000 cases mounts up.
Yeah. We're talking about that money to each person, though. We're not talking about living a life. We're talking about £435 a month. We're not talking about people who are living some kind of luxury existence if they get this and never having to work again. PIP as a benefit is completely separate to any out of work benefits, to any universal credit. It stands on its own, and many people in receipt of PIP also work. This is about getting what you're entitled to when you're ill. And I've had family members. I've had a family member in the past couple of years who requested their paperwork, because once you've done a claim and it's been refused, you can request the notes, right, from the assessor. And that assessor had written on those notes, handbag looked heavy at the assessment for the person as to why they shouldn't get the money that they're entitled to for double hip replacement support. Until they could get their hip replaced with the backlog on the NHS, they were not entitled to disability benefit, living in chronic pain and unable to walk, because the assessor thought their handbag looked heavy, and that assessor had a criteria and had a certain amount of people that they needed to reject each month. This is a system that needs to be efficiently operated in. Otherwise, people simply do not get what they want because of the way it's structured.
Yeah, but TikTok isn't the way to do it, is it, James? I mean, you're right. You're right. It's got to be looked at, but we've got to do it in ways that are fair.
People don't have the choice, now this is the way it's gone. And we talk about, yes, medical professionals, MPs needing, to support people. What does an MP know? I mean, I know MPs now, backbench MPs, who were working at Tesco the week before the general election. MPs are not any more clued up than anyone else at the moment, MPs are there to support you and should be there to support you, rightly so. But they do not have expert knowledge necessarily. However, people who've done multiple PIP applications successfully do. And this is just about a community sharing knowledge. Look, TikTok isn't perfect. I don't like it. I don't use the app myself. But people are going to share knowledge in a community, and that's all that's happening here.
OK, we've got to leave it there, but good points made by both of you this morning. James, Joseph, thanks very much indeed.
Right, still to come, we're going to be going through today's top stories with Nigel Nelson and Claire Pearsall. Will they agree about anything?
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment. This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory. Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark meets at My Take at 10. Democracy is a funny old thing. And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Go to gbnews.com/shop now and take advantage of our biggest ever Black Friday sale with 25% off all items across our store and free shipping on orders worth £60 or more. There's never been a better time to grab something for the GB News fan in your life. From our signature clothing to drinkware, gifts, accessories and much, much more, you'll find the perfect present this festive season. Use the code BLACKFRIDAY25 on checkout at gbnews.com/shop for our best ever Black Friday deals.
We've been talking about robins.
Yes, we have.
We have, sorry. But we are talking about robins because they are apparently the third most seen species of bird in your garden at the moment. They're doing very well, robins. And you've been sending in some lovely pictures.
Yes, this is from Debbie, who said, I took this picture of a lovely robin at my workplace. Oh. It's a gorgeous shot in there. It looks like summertime, actually, doesn't it? On bright sunshine. It just sat on a
But that's the thing, isn't it? You see a robin, you just have to take a picture. Lorraine sent a photo in as well. Oh, that's oh, what a red breast. This is the robin we recently photographed. I'm convinced robins are loved ones from heaven visiting. You're not the first person to actually say that.
No, a lot of people say that. I think it's probably because they do get quite tame and people think that. But it's, again, sat in a tree. That's but lovely. Very nice close-up shot. Dave sent this in showing his friendly local robin. Oh, it's a video. And it's flying over to a seed box that he's holding.
Lovely.
There it is. I mean, that's nice, isn't it, when they just get that tame.
Yeah, and Helen has shared... Oh, he's lovely. Helen shared this photo. Oh, very up close and personal. He's a big robin, that one. At my allotment, it would come and sit on my hand when I was digging, looking for worms.
And there it is, just sat on her fingers.
So if you've got a
Beautiful.
lovely robin picture, do share it with us. The way to get a photograph to us is the old address we used to use, gbviews@gbnews.com. That's the only way we can actually get a photograph, so keep them coming, please.
Here's an interesting comment from Liz Williams, which I'm only reading because I think it epitomises what GB News is all about. Liz says, how do Claire and Nigel manage to stay married? Surely their different politics must create friction. But isn't that what it's all about? Having conversations and learning from each other and... You don't have to agree, do you?
No, and we've never fallen out about politics. That we discuss it a lot because we both work in politics.
Yeah.
So we see each other an awful lot at the House of Commons because we both work there. And we discuss politics all the time. We know we've got opposing views. We do, and we just discuss that. So we've never actually had a row about it, although... Since Labour got into government, Claire has not stopped moaning about the government. And I've got another 5 years of this, and I'm wondering...
Not the only one, to be fair.
Yes.
But they see that, but that's the whole point. It's about agreeing to disagree on something.
Yeah.
Oh, no, come on, I think that's a bit rosy-tinted glasses. Because I have to forbid the talk of politics in my house, because my boys disagree completely, and it ends up as a row. How do you stop it becoming a row?
Because I think you learn to argue better if you're always coming up against somebody with different views. And it's not everything. It's not everything that you disagree. There are always going to be places that you can agree. But you learn how to put your point across, especially doing what we do, to have that argument slightly honed and not go into fisticuffs, I think is a real skill, and it's a delight to have those conversations. And my son actually now joins in, and he plays both sides. Well, he plays both sides. You know, he's not
You
stupid.
also learn things. I mean, as an example, that I was a staunch Remainer, Claire was a fervent Brexiteer. I've learned something from Claire about Brexit and the reason for voting for it, which changed my view, not about Brexit, I still think that was wrong, but I did understand why Claire believed that sovereignty was a price worth paying for Brexit. So you began to sort of see that the people who voted for Brexit weren't wrong in themselves because they got what they wanted.
They weren't all swivel-eyed loons.
Exactly. Exactly.
As David Cameron said.
Yes.
Right, you two. I think that's interesting, and it's what we're all about. I don't agree with every presenter on this channel. They're not by a long shot. But I get on with them all.
MPs do that, though, from both sides.
Yes.
They get on. In fact, a lot of them are very good friends.
Yeah, they are. And from different parties.
Completely different parties.
Different parties, that's right, yes.
Yeah, but of course it's all portrayed as it's all black and white and everybody hates each other. Am I being told to go to a break? We're being told to go. We were going to do a few little papers, but we've had a nice discussion about politics in general and how we agree to disagree and all that sort of thing. So we will take a break and we'll be back and go through the papers in a minute. Oops.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
The pensioner has been sacked as one of Santa's helpers for sending anti-Labour social media posts. So it looks like Santa is going to have even more work to do this Christmas. And joining me now is the former Santa helper, Paul Cleary. Paul, marvellous! You've still got your old hat on there and your beard. Wonderful to see. But Paul, this story, pardon the pun, is absolutely crackers. Tell us what happened to you.
It's unbelievable, to tell you the truth. I've been accused of sending racist and or derogatory remarks on my Facebook page about the Labour government. I received a letter from the trust where I volunteered as Santa. The posts in question about Labour cancelling Christmas. I've upset the board, members and volunteers, and are deemed inappropriate. As you're aware, a lot of time and effort is put into organising the WAF Christmas festival, which is done by a small group of dedicated volunteers.
They even banned you from making donations to the Montgomery Hall Food Bank, a local food bank. They said they didn't even want your food.
That's right. That's right. And then in the next breath, they're asking for Christmas donations.
Without going into any details, I understand that the post was about comparing Keir Starmer to an elf. Is that right? So was it an elf and safety issue?
It was an elf with Keir Starmer's face on it in front of number 10, but the 10 was the I and O in idiot.
Right. I mean, you know, it's not the kind of thing that Santa would normally say, but it's a free country, and for Santa got the sack.
Yeah.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
Oh, no, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Emily Carver. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Right, 7:45. Time to actually go through some of these newspapers. Then, Claire, new MPs, and there's a lot of them. They want to work from 10 till 4.
They do. Now, this is the Modernisation Committee in the Houses of Parliament have asked for suggestions on how to make the workplace better. And, of course, we have...
less.
Well, clearly. But we have a lot of new MPs come in. A lot of them are younger.
Oh.
I know. I feel very old walking around that place at the moment. But they are
noticeably different.
Noticeably different.
Yeah.
It really is. And I kind of...
kindergarten.
It is. And I look at, you know, they're sort of not dissimilar to my son. And you sort of think, oh, this is... I feel... I've been here a long time.
Yeah.
All right? I was here before most of you were born. And it's awful when you get old. But they're looking at sitting hours. Now, we have this discussion around sitting hours frequently, that nobody likes them. It could be better if they did it a different way. However, they now want to run it 10 till 4, maybe 3 days a week.
No.
Ooh.
No.
Absolutely.
No.
And I kind of think that...
And virtual meetings.
Meetings on Teams. They don't like going into the chamber. Now, I understand when you're new, it's quite a daunting environment to go into the chamber. It's quite small, it's quite noisy. You have to do things in a certain way. It's not a normal environment, but you have to be able to adapt to that and you have to be able to get on with it. So if you don't like it, that's tough. Do it more, get used to it, and you'll be fine. But just shutting it down 10 till 4, it doesn't work like that. And the hours are odd and they are set up in a certain way. You start later on a Monday, not until 2:30, but that's to allow those MPs from places like Scotland or from the southwest time to be able to get in. And we all know how long transport takes in this country.
And the reason for the later sittings is to give them something to do, because they have to stay in London, an awful lot of them, and they can't go home. What you don't want is MPs sort of going off and getting drunk somewhere or something like that. So one of the reasons for the late sittings is that. However, I do think it needs modernising in the sense that it can accommodate families better. We've got an awful lot...
That's happened, hasn't it? I mean, the sittings used to go through the middle of the night.
Yes, and they only do that.
They have changed. It has got better, but it is still a problem for families, for relationships. I'm not sure how you fix it, because obviously if an MP is 300 miles away, they've got to stay in London while the House of Commons is sitting.
Yeah.
But it's the job you sign up for and you know what it's going to entail. And yes, it is really difficult, but there have been changes. Proxy voting, for example, extended maternity and paternity leave. It is attempting to be family-friendly, but it's never going to be perfect, because of the nature of the business.
Nature of the business, but they know what they're signing into. Pamela's just messaged him on. Pamela says, "Oh, poor dears." Just not interested in doing the job. If they don't like it, then resign.
Well, there is that.
There is that, yeah, absolutely.
If you just become an MP, wouldn't one of your ambitions be to stand up in the House, make your maiden speech?
Absolutely.
You're becoming part of history.
You are, but the trouble is that a lot of people who do become MPs for the first time don't know what to expect, and it comes as a huge shock when they find, back in the constituency, they're a big wheel, they're really important. Come to the House of Commons, they're cannon fodder on the back benches, and it's very difficult for a lot of them to actually adapt to that.
And do you think maybe quite a few of them didn't expect to be MPs?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of those.
And they must be absolutely shocked they actually got in.
And it is really difficult. In most jobs, when you start a new position, you have training and you have someone that goes around with you and explains where the toilets are, where you get your coffee. You don't have that in the House of Commons. You're put in there and said, congratulations, well done, off you go, do your job.
Yeah.
And it is incredibly hard.
Yeah. But, that is the job. Get on with it. I've no sympathy. Nigel, Sunday Times... look, and this is, basically what Wes Streeting was talking about as he was opposing the assisted dying bill.
Yeah.
Was actually the cost of it.
Well, it's the cost of it. The whole thing is, where we are at the moment is not that assisted dying will definitely come in.
No.
What the MPs have done is voted for it in principle. And a lot of them are actually a bit worried about the practicalities of doing it. So obviously there is a cost implication. The worst one, I think, is actually how the courts and the NHS will cope. Because we have no idea at the moment just how many people might want to go through this. So we don't know if we're talking dozens, hundreds, thousands. If you were following, say, Holland's model, in Holland, 4 in 100 people, their deaths are assisted. If you translate that to England and Wales, we'd be looking at 90 a day. Now, there's no way the NHS or the court system will be able to cope with that.
No.
And I think that's the worry, isn't it? That the NHS has suddenly got to offer a new service when things are so stretched. The backlog for getting a hip operation or a cataract operation is enormous, and even getting to see a GP is incredibly difficult in a lot of areas.
And this won't just be a 5-minute appointment with a GP.
No.
Well, this is going to be a protracted process.
Yes,
and also,
as it should be.
And also, we don't understand if these... end-of-life procedure is going to be carried out in a hospital setting or a clinic setting or at home. So there's going to be additional costs if you're expecting doctors then to have to go to somebody's house and wait and certify that that person has indeed died. So there are extra costs there. If it goes on in a hospital or a clinic setting, then there are costs with staff and also whether those staff are actually willing to take part in that process.
And if there's any disagreement with the family, then lawyers will get involved.
Yes, and I think that the worry... it's back to that sort of the often quoted slippery slope argument. The worry is that if the whole thing becomes commonplace, people will start to be cavalier about it.
Yeah.
So at the moment, yes, I'm sure the safeguards would work initially, but gradually not. So the Canadian experience, for instance, they started off in 2016 with just physical illness. Next stage is that people without a terminal diagnosis, the number of people who had an assisted death, that doubled, and last year they added mental illness to it. So you can see how the whole thing can progress from the starting point, and that's where I think we are. That's why a lot of MPs who voted for it are saying, hang on, we want to make sure these safeguards are in place. We'll decide whether we vote at third reading, which will decide whether it becomes law, whether or not to go ahead with that.
It's very odd, isn't it? Because there are an awful lot of people who are sort of not opposed in principle across the country, and then once it's down on paper and you actually look at the practicalities, you start to reassess. I'm one of those. I like the idea of being able to make my choice if it ever came to that. But actually, when you look at, it's not about me, is it? It's about vulnerable people out there that need to be protected.
It is, and when you speak to a lot of older people, especially if they are on their own and they've got a whole bunch of illnesses and they feel a burden, they don't want their family to have to look after them. They feel that they should be able to look after themselves, and when they can't, they feel embarrassed about it and they feel that they're in the way. And I wouldn't want any vulnerable older person to think that the only solution to this is for an assisted death. I just think that's
or
a really
even
unfair.
You sort of saying, well, you know, we don't want you to sell the house and spend the money on care.
Yeah,
Why don't you
exactly.
just go quietly?
And I just feel that it is this whole slippery slope, and I think it's going to put people into really awkward positions. They want to be able to, for their grandchildren to inherit money, a house, whatever it is, to help them. Is that going to speed up their death?
Yeah, I've got a lot of concerns over this. Nigel, Claire, we do need to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. We'll see you in the next hour.
Right now, let's catch up with the weather. Here's Marco.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. We'll see quite a showery day across the UK today, quite breezy too, but temperatures well above the seasonal average. Low pressure's anchored towards the northwest of the UK at the moment, and that's feeding these bands of rain in from the west. Quite a cloudy picture on the whole across the UK today. Those bands of showers working their way east across most areas, interspersed by some bright or sunny spells. And the brisk winds we've seen, especially towards the north and northwest, gradually easing as we go through the day. Staying fairly blustery though, and pretty mild for the time of year too. Temperatures in the low to mid-teens Celsius, peaking at 14, perhaps even locally 15 Celsius down towards the south. 15 is 59 in Fahrenheit. As we go through the evening into the overnight period on Sunday, further bands of showers will work in from the west. We'll just start to see some cooler weather tucking in towards the far north of Scotland. So to end the day on Sunday, it's quite a showery picture here. Some of those showers on the heavy side, but notice temperatures holding up at 9 or 10 degrees, so still fairly mild. There'll be some clear spells across Northern Ireland, showers mainly out towards the west here. Whereas across Wales, a very showery end to the day. Again, some of those showers on the heavy side. Elsewhere across the south and southeast, a mixture of clear spells and some showers, and once again fairly mild for the time of year. As we go through the evening into the overnight period, those bands of showers continue their way eastwards across all areas, and we do start to see some colder air just tucking into the far north, so the showers across the high ground in Scotland starting to turn wintry by Monday morning. Could see a touch of frost here by Monday morning too, but elsewhere temperatures holding up at 8 to 10 Celsius, so once again a pretty mild night for the time of year. As for Monday itself, the colder air across Scotland starts to make inroads further south, reaching northern England and parts of Northern Ireland through the day. Again, the showers turning increasingly wintry, particularly on the hills of Scotland, whereas across England and Wales, it's more a case of outbreaks of rain working their way in from the north at times, and staying quite mild here, with temperatures generally still close to double figures. Temperatures peaking then in the south at around about 9, 10, locally even 11 Celsius. 11 is 52 in Fahrenheit.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the biggest, greatest Great British giveaway so far, with your chance to win a spectacular £50,000 in tax-free cash. 2025 could be amazing, with plenty of treats, holidays and fun on the horizon. How would you enjoy that cash? £50,000 will make someone our biggest ever winner. For your chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Go to gbnews.com/shop now and take advantage of our biggest ever Black Friday sale with 25% off all items across our store and free shipping on orders worth £60 or more. There's never been a better time to grab something for the GB News fan in your life. From our signature clothing to drinkware, gifts, accessories and much, much more, you'll find the perfect present this festive season. Use the code BLACKFRIDAY25 on checkout at gbnews.com/shop for our best ever Black Friday deals.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camila Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camila Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. A bitter blow for 10 million pensioners.
Yes, the Work and Pension Secretary, who axed the winter fuel payments for some pensioners, is now branded a hypocrite after it's been revealed that her heating bill is funded by the taxpayer.
Yeah, it's Liz Kendall. She claimed just under £4,000 for a second home, as an estimated 100,000 pensioners could be forced into poverty this winter.
There are fresh claims emerging at the BBC and saying that they failed to act on Gregg Wallace's alleged misconduct, some claims dating back to more than 16 years ago.
The Irish general election exit poll reveals the race is just too close to call, but apparently Sinn Féin does hold a narrow lead.
The Princess of Wales speaks of love in the darkest times in a message ahead of her Christmas Carol concert.
Islands in the stream, that is what we are, no one in between.
Edward Rayner should be at that Carol concert.
Yeah,
shouldn't he? He's a viral TikTok sensation, is Edwin. 92 years old. He's dubbed the singing Granddad and is going to be talking to us later in the programme.
Hello, good morning. We'll see some outbreaks of rain working their way from west to east across the UK today. It will be mild, but also quite breezy. I'll have all the details later.
Just gone 8 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Anne Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast.
As we are preparing for Christmas, as you can see from our lovely set this morning.
Yes, what are you going to eat on Christmas Day?
Do you like a Christmas sausage?
1 in 5 of us, according to a survey, have admitted that we're not going to go for a traditional turkey or even a traditional joint of anything. We're going to have a curry. Now, we heard from one of our viewers yesterday
saying they were having a curry.
Yeah.
I love a curry, not for Christmas. But I have to say, it won't be you, Anne, because you've got your eye on this massive sausage.
Well, please.
You have.
Well, there's this new thing. It's called the Big Pig. You know how you get the little sausages in blankets, right? Well, this is a very large sausage. It's a 1 pound slab of meat that's covered with 10 rashers of bacon, and then you slice it up, obviously, and give everybody a slice of that. It's called the Big Pig. Dwarfs a regular pig in blanket. 1 pound of meat, 10 rashers of streaky bacon. It's being sold for £8 at one particular butcher's, I suppose, in St Austell in Cornwall. I think that will go down quite well with people, actually.
Yeah.
The big pig. Tell us if you're going to have a big pig or anything else.
A whopping sausage. And what about the Christmas music that is on? It's on all radio stations at the moment. I love all this sort of stuff.
Crimbo classics.
All these little stories. This one I love, and I don't know why. Driving Home for Christmas.
Oh,
Chris Rea. Driving Home for Christmas.
And so many people are when they're listening to that.
Love
it's
it.
Brilliant.
Apparently, it was written in 1978. Which is a long time before he released it. He was en route from Middlesbrough to London in his wife's Mini, and he penned the lyrics in the streetlights glow.
That's clever.
Now that, you can imagine him doing that. It's the perfect Christmas song. I absolutely love it.
What about George Michael's Last Christmas?
Oh, yeah.
He wrote it in his childhood bedroom while visiting his parents' home in 1984. Meanwhile, bandmate Andrew Ridgeley watched the TV downstairs.
Oh.
Apparently, Andrew Ridgeley is going out for a big boozy video bash.
Oh, is he?
We'll find out about that later.
Oh, right. And this one, I'm trying to get this stood up for you. Merry Christmas, everybody, which has got to be everyone's favourite song. Noddy Holder apparently wrote that in 1973 in 2 hours after a night out at the pub. Anyway, I've just texted to find out if that's actually true. And as soon as anyone in the Holder household wakes up this Sunday morning...
And I'll bet the royalties gives them their big holiday every year, do you think?
They'll make a fortune on it.
Yeah, that's what they always say, write a really good Christmas song.
Why not? It's never aged. I think 1973, before I was born.
Well, I can't believe in this story that Andrew Ridgeley is 61.
Is he really?
He's like a permanent kid, really, isn't he, Andrew Ridgeley?
Isn't it funny?
It's quite shocking to hear he's 61.
But when you look, there's a picture of George Michael in the papers this morning. But, I mean, when they did all that, when they were at the height of their fame with Wham, they were like teenagers.
They were.
Sort of 17, 16, 17.
When I interviewed them, they came on and we didn't know one from t'other.
No,
so we told them that some viewers had made little badges for them.
But they were for you.
So which one's Andrew, which... And we pinned them on them. From there on, we knew which one was which.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they were very sweet.
Hugely talented.
Yeah.
It's a real shame.
Yeah,
Anyway, let's head on to a bit of politics for you this morning, because it is just like it's like a domino effect, isn't it, with the government at the moment? It's how it feels, anyway.
It feels like one a day. There's a sort of...
Yeah. Well, today, our special subject is Liz Kendall, Work and Pensions Secretary. She's been branded a hypocrite for, as you know, she was the one behind the plan to remove winter fuel payments for 10 million pensioners. But it's now emerged that bills for heating at a second home are being paid for by us.
Yes, she's the Work and Pension Secretary. She says she is allowed to claim those costs for the second property in her Leicester West constituency.
And that's true. She is.
It's within the rules.
It is all within the rules, but does it feel right? Because the most recent documents reveal that we paid just under £4,000 for her energy costs in the last year, as over 100,000 pensioners will be forced into poverty.
Earlier on, we spoke to political commentator Peter Spencer.
His expenses, they're entitled to claim them because most of them have constituencies outside London. They need a second home somewhere within spitting distance of the Palace of Westminster, and so they're allowed to claim their expenses for these places. But expenses for MPs have always been a touchy subject. I mean, it feels to me only yesterday that the Daily Telegraph did this monumental expose. Remember the duck pond scandal, which was probably the worst, and it sort of seemed to go on forever with case after case. And I can remember so vividly and so horribly, really, how I'd have to stand up and blather on about the latest scandal-ridden MP when I'd had about 2 seconds to read the copy in advance, and then talk about it as though it was the subject of lifetime study. But in the broader sense, when it comes to the Liz Kendall story, of course, there is a fairly widespread feeling in government now that actually cutting the winter fuel allowance for the vast majority of pensioners was a pretty bad call, because of the fact that the political cost was far outweighed the financial gain to the Treasury. And of course, behind all that, there is the ongoing reality that pensioners are widely regarded collectively as a sacred cow. And the one thing you don't do with sacred cows is slaughter them. All that said, it's no great surprise that Keir Starmer is very much in a moving swiftly on mode. He's making a big speech in the next few days, probably Thursday, we think, in which he's going to talk about specific discernible targets for the government to make things better for people in health, education, crime prevention, and a few other things. And all this fits to the narrative of the bringing back of a fair number of Tony Blair's old guard giving advice, because Tony Blair was very big on targets, which were probably pretty irritating, especially to the ministers who were trying to make them happen. But at the same time, he did manage to win a couple of elections. So that, I think, is the way forward. And it fits in with a broader picture of the government trying to get its messaging act together, because there's little doubt about it, up until now, it hasn't been very good at it.
Yeah, well, but that's a key point, and I know people won't like hearing it, but the messaging side, the PR side of this is very important, because and I wonder if this is going to be a mistake, even in just on this refocus line, Peter, in that with something like this, they're just going to say, aren't they, well, it's all within the rules. Nevertheless, let's look at how we're re-messaging and refocusing. Whereas what people really need is for this to be addressed, even if they don't change it, even if she doesn't have to pay any money back or they talk the way out of it, but for them to actually address these concerns head on.
They haven't been particularly good at optics since they've been in government during the summer. We think of the freebies that Keir Starmer got, and the clothes and the gigs and all the rest of it, and it simply hasn't looked all that good, even though they haven't actually broken rules specifically. And here again, I think what we're going to find behind the scenes is a far greater focus on making sure the optics are better than they have been. And you trace back to, you remember that the Chief of Staff at Downing Street used to be Sue Gray, who was a former top civil servant and very good at walking the walk, but she was very clearly not all that good at talking the talk. And the person who's replaced her, Morgan McSweeney, is very much focused on getting that message out. And that goes in tandem with a much bigger focus on control from number 10. Sue Gray's attitude was, to a large extent, a matter of, well, let the ministers get on with it and do, whatever they've got to do. But now, with a bigger focus on number 10 controlling things, the idea is that everything will look a great deal more specific and a great deal more focused, and will give the impression, at least, that it's much more clearly determined to produce results.
Well, as ever, let us know what you think of all of that. I mean, she's acted within the rules. But sometimes I just think that if you're a pensioner who's going to struggle this Christmas, that really will annoy, more than annoy.
Loads of you getting in saying, why is it £4,000?
Yes, I know. It seems a lot, doesn't it?
Fiery Red Dragon, who is probably in Wales, I imagine, says £4,000 for energy costs. I live in a 4-bedroom house and my energy bill is only £1,200. Clearly, Liz Kendall doesn't believe in economising on her heating. I mean, it's £350 a month that she's paying.
That's a lot.
Well, considering you're not there most of the time.
Well, a lot of people are saying, which house is she claiming that for?
Well, it's apparently Leicester constituency home.
OK.
But it's a lot of money for a house that should be empty 5 days a week. Isn't it?
Yeah. Although I don't know.
You've got your standing charge to pay, obviously, for everything, but But it's still a lot of money.
Well, they don't think the Daily Mail is going to give up on her, are they? They're going to ask more and more questions. And it does seem that at the moment, particularly the Mail, although lots of other newspapers too, are sort of trying to find a scandal a day, aren't they?
Well, they're managing at the moment. As I say, she's not breaking the rules. I have to reiterate it. She's not breaking the rules. But it doesn't smell right.
It doesn't sit well at all.
Not when pensioners who have got no spare money at all are having 300 quid taken off them. Beggars belief, doesn't it?
It's just yet another story, actually, of MPs who you don't necessarily think. I suppose, particularly of Labour MPs, you don't necessarily think that they're very rich, but a lot of them seem to be.
They seem to be, yeah. Anyway. From our parliamentary system to the one in the Republic of Ireland, because the general election has been taking place, of course. Apparently, it's all on a knife edge after an exit poll revealed the three main political parties are basically neck and neck.
Now, their leaders have all been re-elected to serve in the Irish Parliament, but who has got the overall majority? Currently, the counting suggests a return of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael coalition government. That's what they're thinking at the moment.
Let's talk to our reporter, Dougie Beattie, who joins us now. I mean, isn't it looking, though, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but so that we could have a repeat of the coalition government, despite the fact that actually more people have voted for Sinn Féin?
Well, that's correct, and that's what happens in a PR election. It's very much done on management of the vote. So each area has, instead of one MP for each area, you have 3 or 4, up to 5 in that area, and then you vote 1 to 5 down the voting list. Now, that actually does bring back a fairer government, a more representative government, but unfortunately with proportional representation governments, if we look at Italy, I mean, it has went through so many governments in the last 100 years. Even here, this is the 34th Dáil, and I mean, Ireland's just over 100 years old, has had a parliament for that amount of time. So if you do your sums in 4 years each time, you know, there's been some of them that have collapsed, and they collapse because they fall out amongst the parties, and one party line, whoever holds the most seats in that will have to negotiate with other people and other parties to form a government. Now, there is 174 seats now up for grabs in the Dáil Éireann. That's up 14 seats because of the population explosion in the last sort of decade. And we don't really know the data on those because they're new seats. So what we are now seeing is Sinn Féin are masters of proportional representation. They've used it very effectively in Northern Ireland, and they are looking now to come ahead, or to come and become the largest party. But no one really wants to go into a coalition government with them. Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael have basically said we're not going down that road with them, and they will continue to have a government between themselves. But who are they going to negotiate that partnership with? We've seen a coalition government in Britain with the Lib Dems, and of course the junior partner on that in any election always gets wiped out the next time round, and that happened here yesterday. The Greens that were in that coalition government with Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil got wiped out. I mean, they're down to 1 seat now from 12 that they held. So Sinn Féin, Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil, you can guarantee, are now in talks with others to make that magical number of 88 to form a government. But that is really important to Ireland at this stage because, well, they need security, especially with what's happening in Europe and indeed what's happening with the United States, because so much of Ireland's industry and money comes from the United States.
OK, Dougie, thanks very much indeed.
The Elgin Marbles are back in the news because the Prime Minister is meeting authorities and politicians in Greece and has already made it clear that he's quite open to discussions considering sending the Elgin Marbles, which we at the moment have in the British Museum, back to Athens, which is where they ultimately belong. But they've been with Britain for a long time.
There is the argument: if we hadn't taken them, I know it's controversial, if we hadn't taken them, would they have survived in the condition they're in? He's giving away the Chagos Islands.
Yes, that's right. So the next thing, the Elgin Marbles. In fact, it shocked us all because I've been to the Parthenon museum, where the other marbles are laid out, and there are lots of empty plinths, which is where the Elgin marbles should be. And when the guide shows you around, they make a very pointed remark. It's the British who've got them. But we've just seen a picture of an Elgin marble that I didn't know existed. I thought they were all horses' heads and things like that. It's a naked man that we both thought was actually Keir Starmer.
Looks like it. They put it next to a picture of Keir Starmer's head, and it looks like
him.
Looks like he's posing.
But he's showing off his
legs akimbo.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. So we're asking in our poll of the day today: do you think the Elgin marbles should be returned to Greece? We'll be bringing you the live results of that poll throughout the day, so do stay tuned. And as ever, the final result will be this afternoon in Nana's show.
Yes, you can vote by scanning the QR code on your screen if you're watching on TV. If you're listening on the radio, gbnews.com/poll. I've had a lovely message through from... Oh, now I can't... Where's it?
You've lost it now, yeah.
They disappear on this system.
Yeah, well, it's because they go down. Yes, that's right.
I can't remember your name. Do forgive me, but Slade fan who is living in Russia. I remember you're 66. But anyway, he's a huge Slade fan, and they were putting the Christmas tree up in his local Russian shopping centre yesterday and playing Merry Christmas, Everybody. And he said he loves it.
That's when you know it's that time of year.
Anyway, would you believe Noddy Holder, this is world exclusive for you, Noddy Holder has been nudged awake this morning.
Right.
At my request, by Susan, who comes on the show.
Prodded him.
And so here you go, because the papers this morning, The Star says that he wrote it in 1973 after 2 hours after a night out at the pub. Part of the original melody of Merry Christmas was the first song that Noddy ever wrote in 1967.
Well.
But it is true, he wrote the lyrics in 2 hours after getting very merry in his local pub in 1973. Ho, ho, ho.
Uh-oh.
And I have double-checked. Noddy has given us his express permission to relay that story.
Lovely.
So there you go.
Although he's only just woken up.
Though he only has just woken up, so he probably doesn't realise what he said.
Well, if you're both still watching...
Good morning.
Good morning, yeah. Happy Advent. It's the first day of...
Although I've never met Noddy.
Have you not?
No, I've never met Noddy, because every time he's been down, I've not been able to meet up. But, of course, we know Susan very well.
Yeah.
But it is that very odd thing, as we're writing Christmas cards the other day, when you write a Christmas card to Susan and Noddy, and you sort of think, am I really writing this?
Yes, I know.
It's really odd. It's Noddy Holder.
I just wonder, every time they go into a supermarket to buy something...
Oh, it must be a nightmare.
It must be. I mean, he's at this time of year, that's all you hear, isn't it?
Mind you, unless he just walks in and thinks... Ka-ching!
Yeah, well, that too. I've had a message from Claudia. Morning, Claudia.
Oh, dear.
She says, this is trivial, I know, but Anne didn't show us a picture of the big pig.
The massive sausage.
She spent ages looking at it and talking about it in the paper, but didn't actually show us what it was like.
There it is.
Ta-da!
It's a massive sausage and bacon.
Exactly, that's all it is.
Got your attention, didn't it?
1 pound of meat, 10 rashers of bacon, and you can have that instead of a turkey this Christmas Day. Well, you wanted to see it. I've shown you now.
No comment. Here's the weather.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers. Sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. We'll see quite a showery day across the UK today. Quite breezy too, but temperatures well above the seasonal average. Low pressure's anchored towards the northwest of the UK at the moment, and that's feeding these bands of rain in from the west. Quite a cloudy picture on the whole across the UK today. Those bands of showers working their way east across most areas, interspersed by some bright or sunny spells. And the brisk winds we've seen, especially towards the north and northwest, gradually easing as we go through the day. Staying fairly blustery though, and pretty mild for the time of year too. Temperatures in the low to mid-teens Celsius, peaking at 14, perhaps even locally 15 Celsius down towards the south. 15 is 59 in Fahrenheit. As we go through the evening into the overnight period on Sunday, further bands of showers will work in from the west. We'll just start to see some cooler weather tucking in towards the far north of Scotland. So to end the day on Sunday, it's quite a showery picture here. Some of those showers on the heavy side, but notice temperatures holding up at 9 or 10 degrees, so still fairly mild. There'll be some clear spells across Northern Ireland, showers mainly out towards the west here. Whereas across Wales, a very showery end to the day. Again, some of those showers on the heavy side. Elsewhere across the south and southeast, a mixture of clear spells and some showers. And once again, fairly mild for the time of year. But so, as we go through the evening into the overnight period, those bands of showers continue their way eastwards across all areas, and we do start to see some colder air just tucking into the far north, so the showers across the high ground in Scotland starting to turn wintry by Monday morning. Could see a touch of frost here by Monday morning too, but elsewhere temperatures holding up at 8 to 10 Celsius, so once again a pretty mild night for the time of year. As for Monday itself, the colder air across Scotland starts to make inroads further south, reaching northern England and parts of Northern Ireland through the day. Again, the showers turning increasingly wintry, particularly on the hills of Scotland, whereas across England and Wales, it's more a case of outbreaks of rain working their way in from the north at times, and staying quite mild here, with temperatures generally still close to double figures. Temperatures peaking then in the south at around about 9, 10, locally even 11 Celsius. 11 is 52 in Fahrenheit.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Just to let you know, the world's biggest Slade fan is Ian Walker in St. Petersburg in Russia. Found your message, Ian.
But apparently even in St. Petersburg at the moment, if you go out to a supermarket, it's playing Slade. Isn't that wonderful?
I love it.
Rocking all over the world.
I see, we do. We export good stuff. Right, do you fancy £50,000 in your pocket by the end of January? Could be yours, all tax-free. It is our biggest cash prize ever. Here's how you could win.
It's the biggest, greatest Great British giveaway so far, with your chance to win a spectacular £50,000 in tax-free cash. 2025 could be amazing, with plenty of treats, holidays and fun on the horizon. How would you enjoy that cash? £50,000 will make someone our biggest ever winner. For another chance to win £50,000 cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Fabio, thank you for coming in. It's great to see you.
Nice to meet you.
So you were born near Rome?
Yeah, in a very small town. It's called Serrone, about an hour south of Rome. Yeah, on the hillside.
Was it a place of excellent cuisine?
It is indeed a place of excellent cuisine and red wines. In fact, it's the only DOCG red wine of the region. Yeah.
Most of your career, I mean, this may seem self-evident, you've cooked Italian. I'm thinking that's quite a challenge to cook Italian in Malaysia, to cook Italian in Bermuda or Turkey. Was that a challenge?
It was, yeah, but I like challenges, so that's one of the reasons why I started to travel, because of my job. For example, in Malaysia, I've been sent there to twist a grill restaurant into an Italian restaurant inside a 5-star hotel. And I was doing the chef training for the local chefs. And then I build the menus, I train the chefs, and then I eventually go back.
In Italian food, is there lots of innovation?
I would say in the past 10 years, yes. It used to be a very traditional cuisine, but in the past 10, 15 years, Italian chefs, they are a bit more open-minded, I would say.
Give us some examples of your innovation.
Well, hide and seek is very well around the innovation. In that bar is a bar and kitchen where we have a cherry plate concept, where we try to take our guests in a culinary journey, starting from a classic dish and then reinventing to a modern twist. Usually I like to twist the style of cuisine between different countries, different continents.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The Princess of Wales says love is the greatest gift people can give each other, in a message to those planning to attend her annual Christmas Carol service, which is next week.
Well, this appearance will be Catherine's most prominent return to royal engagement since undergoing that chemotherapy, of course.
We're joined now by royal commentator Richard Fitzwilliam. Richard, it's really good to see her back in action. And this, of course, is something that we've always known is very dear to her heart, this carol service.
No, absolutely. This is the fourth, in fact, that she will have organised. And it's a very moving letter that she sent to the 1,600 strong congregation at Westminster Abbey, and also there'll be 15 other centres around the country with this absolutely remarkable event. I mean, it is very, very dear to her. We've known, in fact, that she's been working on this for some time, and indeed attending a meeting in very difficult times, of course, for her some weeks ago. And obviously, this letter, I mean, the emphasis being on love in the darkest times and the need for empathy and understanding. And also, of course, the letter seems to be very much a reaffirmation of faith, which I think is significant.
Yes, and of love for family. But it's interesting, as you say there, she mentions even in our darkest times. And once again, you can't help think that she has been through a hell of a lot this year, as has the King. And there must have been times when she felt very low or depressed, I guess, worried at least. And she says love has got her through it. And it's, I don't know, it's a reaffirmation of her love for her family and her husband.
No, absolutely. And I mean, the support that William and also the Middletons, as you say, are probably the unsung heroes because they aren't often mentioned, but I'm sure that's implicit in this. I mean, the trauma and the pressure, and as we know, of course, in her particular position, so much speculation adding to the stress of it all. And there's no doubt this is a very, very significant, on the 6th, tremendously important event for her. And it will have, which is wonderful, maximum coverage, of course, because it's being broadcast on Christmas Eve. So that will be wonderful. And these celebrities taking part too. I mean, Sir Chris Hoy, who has the terminal diagnosis, I mean, he's participating, and Michelle Dockery, Richard E. Grant, Sophie Okonedo, also, and William Reading. This will, I think, be something that very large numbers of people will show an interest in and will tune in. And, of course, they have worldwide reach, which is so significant.
What is, I think, lovely about all of this, as much as we miss Queen Elizabeth, from Charles down, this has become very quickly a more in-touch monarchy, if you like. We do seem to be getting a sense of being able to feel slightly closer to them in a more personal way than we have done before. And I mean, that's epitomised by everything Catherine's doing.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, obviously, the King has taken a great deal of time, firstly, with the prostrate diagnosis, and then secondly, of course, with cancer. We don't know the details, but again, he's attempted to reach out and regarding the videos, particularly that in March, where she looked so devastated, talking about the diagnosis, and then the happier one in September, where she'd finished chemotherapy and was cancer-free. The idea is to reach out, as Sir Chris Hoy said, the disease, alas, and illness is a leveler, and that others who have suffer from this pernicious illness, and also those affected by it, so many people feel more in touch. So I think you're absolutely right.
It's interesting, her role within the royal family now, or at least we look to her for it. The king, not so much, because it's just him and Camilla now. But there's something about Catherine and the work she's doing now. It's all about family, probably maternal love as well. That she has become very much that sort of standard bearer for motherhood, for the unity of family, and it's lovely to see. It's a role she seems to take on very well and easily.
Yes, indeed, and of course, bringing up a family in the conditions that have been so traumatic this year. I mean, people can, I think, feel and identify with her more in this particular respect. And of course, there's action on addiction and her recent letter on that, and then of course mental illness. One thing that I think William and Catherine have done, they're attached to far fewer charities. So many senior royals used to be linked to hundreds. But they do so much more for the ones that rather like the Earthshot Prize and various homelessness, for example, with William. They do so much more for the ones that they are actually attached to, and I think make more of an impact in that way.
Richard, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. I just think they're such a lovely couple. And there were those horrible rumours doing the rounds. And actually, when you see them, they are a couple in love. You can see it.
Yeah, you can see it. They're very touchy-feely, aren't they?
It's lovely.
But thank God we've got her. I think she's just been brilliant.
She has been absolutely brilliant. And she guides William in the right way, I think. She brings the best
they're each other's
out of
strength. I mean, one part of the letter, and this letter that she's written has gone to every person of the 1,600 carol goers at the Westminster Abbey service. She said, because in times of joy and sadness, we are all each other's light.
Oh, it's lovely.
Isn't it lovely?
It's lovely.
Well done, Catherine. I think that's smashing.
Yeah. Now, of course, it is the 1st of December. It is the first day of Advent. And forget your Advent calendar, as nice as it may be. We're doing our own special Advent event, special messages every single day, and they're fantastic. Here's our first.
The GB News Advent Calendar, Day 1.
Hi, I'm Chris Tufnell. I'm the vicar of Uterbridge Parish Church near Sheffield. On Christmas Day 1997, I opened a present. It was a book, and on the cover was a picture of a train, a boy with a scar on his head, and a sign saying platform 9 3/4. It was, of course, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, the first in the major series. But I remember thinking, it'll never catch on. And so it stayed on my shelf gathering dust for years. People told me I should read it, but I didn't. Until I realised this Harry Potter thing was getting really quite big now. And so I opened the cover, began to read, and sure enough, I was soon hooked. I think it's all too easy for us to do the same with the story of the person Christmas is all about, Jesus Christ. It's clear his story has caught on, it's shaped the Western world and given us the values we cherish so much at Christmas. Most people have heard something about him, but few have actually read the story for themselves. If that's you, might it be time that you did? Happy Christmas.
He's great.
Yeah, he's good, isn't he?
He's a great vicar. I really, really like it. I've got my clerical team are really good. I really like all of them, but I have to say he's brilliant. Really brilliant. Just needed to say that in case my lot were watching.
Oh, I see.
I don't want to offend anybody,
Okay,
but he's really good.
Anyway, we're going to be showing all of our special Advent messages as Christmas approaches. You can have a look for yourself on gbnews.com/Advent. Anyway, have a wonderful 1st of December today, the first day of Advent.
Yeah,
in a couple of moments. Yeah, sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say we've got the papers. heading your way with a couple who love to disagree. Nigel Nelson and Claire Pearsall. That's coming next.
Go to gbnews.com/shop now and take advantage of our biggest ever Black Friday sale with 25% off all items across our store and free shipping on orders worth £60 or more. There's never been a better time to grab something for the GB News fan in your life. From our signature clothing to drinkware, gifts, accessories and much, much more, you'll find the perfect present this festive season. Use the code BLACKFRIDAY25 on checkout at gbnews.com/shop for our best ever Black Friday deals.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Jubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camila Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camila Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Right, let's go through the headlines for you this morning in the papers at 8:40 with our senior political commentator Nigel Nelson and former Conservative advisor Claire Pearsall. Good morning to you both.
Morning.
I've seen that a lot of the papers, Sunday Telegraph, we're looking at. Gregg Wallace, Nigel, but also we've got to say, I mean, there's more things have come to light. He's released another video, hasn't he?
Yes, he has, yeah. And what he's actually saying in that, I mean, it's almost unbelievable. Bear in mind that he denies all the allegations that have been made against him. But, I mean, ridiculously, he says the complainants are a handful of middle-class women of a certain age.
All right, let's have a look.
In the newspaper, I can see the complaints coming from a handful of middle-class women of a certain age just from Celebrity MasterChef.
OK.
OK, if you're in a hole, keep digging.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. That I mean, the easiest thing to be in a situation like that. He's already said he will cooperate with the investigation, which is absolutely right, and he should have left it at that till it's over.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, when in holes, stop digging. Somebody should have told him, say nothing,
Keep away from social media, don't open your phone, don't do anything. That would have been my advice to him, just keep quiet.
Well, some of the reports say that he's taken on a very expensive legal firm now to represent his point of view. You'd think that he'd be taking their advice, and their advice must be just keep quiet while we
I'd have thought
we deal with this.
Yes, absolutely right. That what you don't do is, regardless of whether the allegations are false, you don't then attack the people who are complaining.
No.
That as far as one can gather, they're complaining in good faith. There should be a proper investigation which has been launched. That's the point, to stay stum.
Yeah, mind you, if you do feel that you've done nothing wrong, it must be incredibly frustrating to sit there and see everything appear in the papers and not.
Well, yeah, but surely you protest your innocence whilst also saying, I'm terribly sorry that some people seem to be aggrieved.
But this is it, because you're not allowing those people to have their say. Now, there are aggrieved parties who have put forward some really serious complaints at his behaviour. Surely you need to wait for any investigation. If you believe you have truth on your side, you would need to allow that investigation to carry through to its natural conclusion and not dismiss the concerns made by a bunch of women who aren't normally the ones to shout about it. You look through the list and you think these are not people who would complain unnecessarily. They are concerned at the behaviour that they have experienced, and nobody should put that down to gossip or dismiss it in the way that he's done.
Whereas,
it really shouldn't happen.
I mean, the phrases that he has used there are incredibly patronising.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe this is just a bunch of people that didn't particularly like his behaviour. Maybe he should consider his behaviour to be the problem.
Oh dear, we're going to have to watch that in full, aren't we, at some point, and see the full details of it. Now, what's going on, according to The Sun on Sunday, Claire, about female troops in the Falklands?
Right, well, we all know the Falkland Islands are an incredibly long way away, and there isn't an awful lot to do.
When you get there, no.
So since 2008, at least 50 serving military personnel of the female variety have fallen pregnant and had to be repatriated back to the United Kingdom. There is some discrepancy. I think the MOD is suggesting that perhaps women might like to see if they're pregnant before they go out to somewhere like the Falkland Islands, but of course they can't make them take a pregnancy test because that would be deemed to be unfair and invasion of their privacy. But you sort of look on the other side and you think, when you're that far away from home in a very windy place with not much entertainment,
and
is it surprising?
I mean, I suppose at minus 10 degrees during winter that you want to snuggle up with somebody.
It is quite a high proportion of those serving.
It is quite a high proportion.
It is the RAF, apparently.
Yes, they seem to be winning.
One of them in the RAF.
Yeah, so I don't know what that says about the RAF.
No, they seem to be winning in that. So I think the RAF needs to perhaps look at providing a little bit more entertainment out there for the troops if they're not very busy.
Yeah. Meanwhile, in the Mirror, Nigel, you have found that prisoners at a particular jail near Bristol are enjoying a very cushy time on a particular sort of chair.
Yes, they've got their own electric chair, but not of the sort that you imagine. This electric chair is a vibrating massage chair, and it's at HMP Ashfield. And the idea is that it calms prisoners down, so if they're stressed out, they get their vibrating massage chair.
Yeah, with mood lighting.
With mood lighting, that's right. And apparently it means that the prison environments become less volatile as a result of this. So if they're feeling really sort of stressed out, they have their own sort of great escape.
Well, yes, I can imagine people not being happy with this.
Well,
to be clever. But if it's stopping fights or whatever,
it's reducing aggro. Apparently, it's been set up by their new well-being department.
Do you know what? If we were concerned about their well-being, if they were concerned about their well-being, they wouldn't have committed the crimes that put them in the prison in the first place. This is meant to be a punishment. Don't give them massage chairs.
Yeah, I think most people would agree with you on that one. Right, we're going to head to a short break, but we will be back with more from these two in just a moment.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30am.
Only on GB News.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
1 in 20 people are diagnosed with seasonal affective disorder across the UK.
Yes, Healthwatch has revealed that men are more likely to suffer from this than women. Did you know?
Triggers apparently include a decrease in daylight hours, which is certainly happening around about now. If you're leaving the office, it's dark. When you come home, it's dark, as well as the falling temperatures.
Yes, and both of those things happen a lot, don't they, here in Britain? So how can we combat the symptoms of seasonal affective disorder? Well, to discuss this, we're joined now by Dr. Andreas Fonseca, the founder and director of Thrive Mental Wellbeing. Really good to see you this morning, Doctor. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Now, there'll be lots of people watching and listening this morning and saying, what a load of rubbish. It's always been cold in this country. It's always been dark. What is seasonal affective disorder? Is it really a thing?
Well, it is a thing, and it's been known for quite some time. This is not new, really. It is a form of depression. That's what it is. And it's got specific characteristics that kind of differentiate it from other forms of depression. So the reason probably we're talking more about it is because it's basically people are more aware of it and they're recognizing it more. So before you used to be sort of just saying this person's got depression, now you have some specific things to look at that can differentiate it from other kinds of depression, which is quite useful because it's got some specific forms of treatment. So the things that are different about seasonal affective disorder are that for the diagnosis you need 2 years in which you only have episodes during either the late autumn or early winter. So that's when they start, and they fade away by late spring, summer. Early summer. So that's how it works. And you cannot have any episodes at any other time. So it has to be seasonal, specifically seasonal.
GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Nana Acquia. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Just before we get back to the papers, just want to go through some of these Robin pictures because lots of you got in touch. Pete and Carol sent this in. This is their Robin who resides at our local garden centre, perched just on a sign inside the entrance door. Beautiful, fluffy, fat thing.
Yes, it really is,
gorgeous.
Isn't it? Samantha has also sent a video in. She says, I've counted up to 6 robins at one time. In my Devon garden. We see many robins each year.
It's just flown onto a hand with a load of seed on.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Mark sent this in. It's a cheeky robin stealing his fishing bait. Beautiful, just perched on the side of his dish.
Well, they would like that, wouldn't they?
Oh, they would like that.
And Vicky sent in another cheeky one. There's a robin who likes a cocktail.
Oh, yeah, I like it. It's a beautiful little thing there. So keep those pictures coming through. gbviews@gbnews.com.
Because robins are doing really well. The third most viewed bird in our gardens at the moment. And it's nice to be able to bring good news about wildlife, actually, isn't it? Because you usually hear that they're not doing so well. But robins are doing very well.
As you can see, Nigel and Claire are still with us. Elgin Marbles, top poll of the day. We're asking today, should they be sent back? The Keir Starmer seems to be open to the idea of discussing it.
Yes, I mean, you've had a loophole in the Charities Act, which would mean that the British Museum would be allowed to get rid of some of their exhibits, which they're not allowed to at the moment. Personally, yes, let's do that. I mean, I think as a principle, cultural artefacts from a certain country should be displayed in that country. So, for instance, there are things we'd like back that the Vikings came along and they nicked a load of our rather beautifully hand-decorated Bibles, which are on display in various Scandinavian museums. Now, it seems to me those things belong in this country, not there.
But you can't relocate everything, can you?
No, I mean, nobody would have anything left at all, would they? But I do think with the Elgin Marbles, it is about time. We've had them since the early 1800s, allegedly to look after them, but I think that we got them in odd circumstances. Little discussion with the Ottomans at the time. We half-inched them over to this country, said we're going to take care of them. And having now seen, Nigel and I went to Athens last October, and seeing where they should be...
Yes, you see the empty plinths.
You do, and you think, actually, they need to go back there. And 3D printing these days is such a good tool that we have, that we could have replicas in this country so that people can understand
we would have their
what it was, or their replicas that
in the
they
Acropolis
have.
Museum, that they've got replicas of the Elgin Marbles. All we have to do is we'll give the originals back to them and we'll take the replicas.
But what about, I mean, if you go to the British Museum and you look at the Egyptian section, I mean, that would wipe out, you know, most
all
of it.
No, it absolutely would. And I think you have to look at these things on almost like a case-by-case basis as to how you got them, why you've got them. Does the country of origin actually want them back as well?
And are they responsible enough to take them back?
There is that as well.
Which was the argument for keeping the Elgin Marbles. But I think that now there's no question about it. If you go to the Acropolis and the Acropolis Museum, it's a beautifully constructed museum.
It's wonderful, isn't it?
You've been there, so I mean, they look after everything properly.
All right, well, there you go. I wasn't expecting you both to agree on that one, but you have. We'll find out what the poll says from you guys, where it's standing at the moment, a little bit later on. Claire, in the Daily Star, all I can say to you is...
That should frighten you.
Well, it did. I mean, it's a lovely impression first thing in the morning. And people being afraid of sheep.
What's wrong with you? Get a grip.
A survey of sort of 2,000 people found that a high percentage were afraid of sheep. Now,
I mean, for heaven's sakes, 36. I'm just appalled.
Well,
sheep.
If they're stampeding at you, I think that's a bit frightening, because they do stampede, don't they? They just go for it in numbers.
They do, but they're easily distracted.
Yeah, they don't sort of come and attack you. I think that if you're in a field with a load of cows, and especially bulls or something like that...
Oh, but you've never gone near a bull.
No.
So those farm animals are things to keep away from. And I'm not too happy about horses anymore, ever since Claire fell off one and broke her pelvis. And I gave up riding from that moment on the basis that my pelvis is a bit too old to get knocked about.
Yeah, it is. But if you're frightened of a sheep, get a grip, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you both very much indeed. It's been great to see you.
The weather now.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. We'll see quite a showery day across the UK today, quite breezy too, but temperatures well above the seasonal average. Low pressure's anchored towards the northwest of the UK at the moment, and that's feeding these bands of rain in from the west. Quite a cloudy picture on the whole across the UK today. Those bands of showers working their way east across most areas, interspersed by some bright or sunny spells. And the brisk swings we've seen, especially towards the north and northwest, gradually easing as we go through the day. Staying fairly blustery though, and pretty mild for the time of year too. Temperatures in the low to mid-teens Celsius, peaking at 14, perhaps even locally 15 Celsius down towards the south. 15 is 59 in Fahrenheit. As we go through the evening into the overnight period on Sunday, further bands of showers will work in from the west. We'll just start to see some cooler weather tucking in towards the far north of Scotland. So to end the day on Sunday, it's quite a showery picture here. Some of those showers on the heavy side, but notice temperatures holding up at 9 or 10 degrees, so still fairly mild. There'll be some clear spells across Northern Ireland, showers mainly out towards the west here. Whereas across Wales, a very showery end to the day. Again, some of those showers on the heavy side. Elsewhere across the south and southeast, a mixture of clear spells and some showers. And once again, fairly mild for the time of year. But as we go through the evening into the overnight period, those bands of showers continue their way eastwards across all areas, and we do start to see some colder air just tucking into the far north, so the showers across the high ground in Scotland starting to turn wintry by Monday morning. Could see a touch of frost here by Monday morning too, but elsewhere temperatures holding up at 8 to 10 Celsius, so once again a pretty mild night for the time of year. As for Monday itself, the colder air across Scotland starts to make inroads further south, reaching northern England and parts of Northern Ireland through the day. Again, the showers turning increasingly wintry, particularly on the hills of Scotland, whereas across England and Wales, it's more a case of outbreaks of rain working their way in from the north at times, and staying quite mild here, with temperatures generally still close to double figures. Temperatures peaking then in the south at around about 9, 10, locally even 11 Celsius. 11 is 52 in Fahrenheit.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather.
You could be joining the Great British Giveaway list of winners with your chance to grab a fantastic £50,000 in tax-free cash. We've made loads of winners this year, and you could be our next.
Hi, I'm Angela from Wigan, and I won £30,000 with the Great British Giveaway. It happens to people like me.
For your chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Jaguar has ditched its growling big cat logo as part of what can only be described as a woke rebrand. The badge that has been used for decades, look at it, beautiful, on the bonnets of luxury cars has been swapped for a curved geometric J badge. They've also released a brand new advert, look at it, for their rebrand, which prompted Elon Musk to ask if the company actually sold cars. I thought this was a wind-up. It's not, it's true. And joining me now to discuss this is the motoring journalist, Amanda Stratton. Amanda, what on earth is going on at Jaguar? The car of James Bond, Batman, Arthur Daley has gone off the scale woke. Please make me make sense of it.
The E-Type is an absolutely iconic car, and it's important that people remember that, in fact, in its heyday, Jaguar was an incredibly prestigious brand, more so really than other British brands like Aston Martin, for example. But, you know, people in the industry are left sort of scratching their heads because you need to do something bold, you need to do something that catches people's attention, but you also need to stay true to who you are and what you are, and I'm not sure that this is it.
Amanda, that could be an advert for anything. It could be cat food. It could be Karl Lagerfeld. It could be literally anything apart from a Jag. Well, I mean, honestly, I mean, OK, we're talking about it. So we are talking about it, but we're not talking about it for the right reasons, are we?
And I think if I was going to be speculative here, I would like to think that this is actually all part of a cunning plan to get everybody talking about it. Yeah. So when they do launch the first new car that we're going to see, which, you know, people have been waiting, as I say, since 2001.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning. A bitter blow for 10 million pensioners.
The Work and Pensions Secretary, she's the one who axed the winter fuel payments for many pensioners. Well, she's been branded a hypocrite after it's been revealed her heating bill is being funded by the taxpayer.
Well, Liz Kendall claimed just under £4,000 for a second home. And as it's estimated, about 100,000 pensioners are going to be forced into poverty this winter.
The MasterChef host, Gregg Wallace, claims accusations made against him have come from a certain demographic as the scandal rumbles on.
Handful of middle-class women of a certain age.
The Irish general election exit poll reveals the race is too close to call. Sinn Féin holds a narrow lead.
The Princess of Wales speaks of love in the darkest times in a message ahead of her Christmas Carol concert.
Islands in the stream, that is what we are. No one in between.
And very shortly, we're going to be joined by the viral TikTok sensation, 92-year-old Edwin Rayner, the singing Granddad.
Hello, good morning. We'll see some outbreaks of rain working their way from west to east across the UK today. It will be mild, but also quite breezy. I'll have all the details later.
Just gone 9 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Anne Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Oh, it's lovely to hear sleigh bells in our title music.
It is. It's lovely, isn't it? 1st of December today, just in case you're just getting up and didn't know. First day of Advent.
Actually, not everyone does know.
How do you
My
mean?
mother said to me yesterday, it's about the 28th, isn't it?
Yes,
I said, no, it's not, no.
It seems like December has suddenly happened, actually, doesn't it?
It has.
There were lots of things I was going to do and be organised before December. And
you haven't done them? No. Well, fair enough. Well, look, one thing which you may have noticed, because there's lots of them about, apparently, is lots of robins in your garden. They're plentiful this year.
Yes, they're doing very well, which is nice to know. And, of course, they sort of sum up Advent, don't they? They make you look forward to Christmas. Now, Pete and Carol have got in touch already, and they say, here's a picture of a robin that resides in our local garden centre. He or she perched on a sign just inside the entrance door.
I love the fact that this robin is fat and fluffy.
Yeah, very fluffy.
Yeah, it's a lovely, lovely picture. Samantha sent this video in of 6 robins that she's seen in her Devon garden. She sees many robins every year, she says, and here's one flying onto her hand.
I'd love to be able to do that.
Yeah, it'd be magical.
Yeah. Mark sent this in. He says, this cheeky robin was stealing my bait whilst I was fishing. See, a robin would love that.
Yeah, and Vicky sent this cheeky one in of a robin sat on the edge of her plate next to a cocktail. So there you go. And again, a lovely little thing. It looks like it needs to feed up ahead of winter.
Yes, that looks a bit thinner,
done.
doesn't it? But anyway, it's lovely to have those photographs. Thank you very much for sending them in.
Now, Camilla's show, you know, is coming up at 9:30, obviously, and she joins us now just in the midst of... I mean, it's Advent for the Labour Party, doesn't it, for government, where every day there's a new little scandal.
I know, they're opening windows on our Advent calendar and wanting to close them immediately, I would suggest. I know you've been covering this Liz Kendall story extensively this morning, so that was in the Mail on Sunday, front page, suggesting that the woman responsible for stripping pensioners of their winter fuel allowance is in turn having her fuel bills paid for at her Leicestershire home. She's got 2 homes, one in Notting Hill, apparently worth £4 million because she's married to somebody quite wealthy, and she bases herself there when she's in London. And then her Leicestershire home, a little further up north, she's claiming, we think, around £350 per month in fuel bills. Now, to be fair, her people are saying all MPs are entitled to do this. We remember this from the expenses scandal, this idea that MPs can, to a certain extent, have their second homes part paid for by the taxpayer in recognition of the fact that if you're in a constituency far from Westminster, you've got to spend half your time there and therefore you need a roof over your head. However, I think it's interesting to hear from Nigel Farage saying, under no circumstances will I be claiming any fuel for my second home. And this has become kind of an issue of conscience and morality now, hasn't it? On one hand, can you really sensibly turn around to pensioners and say, sorry, you can't have your winter fuel allowance, but don't worry about me because half of my fuel bills are being paid for, incidentally, by you and by fellow taxpayers. So it's tricky. I shall be asking Pat McFadden about that. He's the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster. So it's kind of he's not the Deputy PM because that's Angela Rayner, but he's very close to Keir Starmer. Let's be honest, the in-tray of problems for Labour just gets bigger and bigger. I'll be asking him, of course, about Lou Haig's resignation as Transport Secretary. Still trying to get my head around the idea of law-making, law-abiding Keir Starmer. We remember his rhetoric during Partygate, don't we? We must be all above, you know, any low moral standards. We must abide by the letter of the law. The question to Mr McFadden is surely going to be, how did a former Director of Public Prosecutions, who puts himself on this high moral pedestal, think it was a good idea to appoint a convicted fraudster to Cabinet? Doesn't make any sense, does it?
I mean, the argument coming out of that, though, seems to be, well, you know, the implication, at least, is I didn't really do it. I was just told to plead guilty. But, of course, that doesn't work for anybody else, does it?
No, it's just very, very odd. This is the trouble with Starmer. If you put yourself on that kind of pedestal and you sort of suggest that you are morally more upstanding than anyone else, not least the Conservative Party, then you've got much further to fall when it all goes horribly wrong. There has been a catalogue of errors by Labour. We've mentioned winter fuel, farmers' protests, accusations that the Chancellor Rachel Reeves has lied on her CV, now Hague's resignation. Do you know how long it took for Tony Blair's Labour government to suffer its first resignation? 18 months. I mean, all of this has happened in the first 4 months of Labour is astonishing, isn't it? And I'm actually going to be having a look at some of the polling with Scarlett Maguire from JL Partners. She's going to come on because a couple of things we're witnessing. We're witnessing Starmer's approval rating absolutely tanking. We're also seeing the rise of reform, which will come as no surprise to people who watch and listen to GB News. But interesting by-election results since the last general election suggest that reform is up 11%. We've got Nigel Farage now more popular than the Prime Minister, apparently, according to Ipsos. So we'll drill into that. And I'll get the Conservative response to all this from Victoria Atkins. She's Shadow Environment. She was Shadow Health Secretary. She supported the assisted dying bill on Friday. Is that a particularly Conservative thing to do? Should she have been supporting that rushed legislation? So we'll be drilling into that. I'll also be speaking to former Labour bigwig Alan Johnson, former Home Secretary and Health Secretary. I wonder what he makes of Starmer's start in office. It's not particularly Blairite, is it?
And do you think Keir Starmer is going to give the Elgin Marbles back to Greece?
At this stage, Anne, when it comes to a cacophony of bad decision-making, nothing would surprise me.
Yeah. Oh, well, we shall see. We've got our poll
Interesting
on that today.
programme for you, Camilla.
Yeah, it is going to be an interesting one. Lots of open goals, I should think, really. Camilla, thanks very much indeed. Yeah, I was very surprised by the fact Claire and Nigel agreed that they thought the Elgin Marbles probably should go back now.
Well, morally, I suppose we do. But practically, maybe the British Museum could lend them back to...
But then Nigel made the very good argument of saying, well, there's a load of these, you know, very, very old, centuries-old British hand-drawn, handwritten Bibles that were taken by the Vikings and are on display over in Denmark and Norway, and perhaps they should be brought back to the UK. Which is, I mean, we'd all want that, wouldn't we?
Yeah, but I don't think we want to give up the Elgin Marbles or the mummies in the Egyptian section of the British Museum. I don't know. It'll. I mean, that's the point. It would start a domino effect.
It would.
Of other countries saying, well, we want our bits and pieces back.
Well, you can have your say on that. gbnews.com/poll.
OK, let's move on to somebody else who's dominating the news at the moment, and that's whether you've ever watched MasterChef. Have you?
No, I don't think I have.
Celebrity MasterChef, something else. There are about 4 different MasterChefs. But Gregg Wallace is one of the hosts, and I think he's a judge as well. Is he an actual judge of it?
Oh, I should think so, probably.
He certainly hosts it, along with John Torode. Gregg Wallace, very well-known face, and he's in a hole and keeps digging, I think a lot of people think at the moment. He has responded now to the mounting allegations against him in a pretty defiant video, which he's posted online, saying that the accusations against him come from middle-class women of a certain age.
Yeah, he's facing accusations that he made sexual comments towards staff and celebrity guests on a range of programmes over 17 years.
I've been doing MasterChef for 20 years. Amateur, celebrity and professional MasterChef. And I think in that time, I have worked with over 4,000 contestants of all different ages, all different backgrounds, all walks of life. And apparently now, I'm reading in the paper, there's been 13 complaints in that time. Now, in the newspaper, I can see the complaints coming from a handful of middle-class women of a certain age just from Celebrity MasterChef. This isn't right. In 20 years, over 20 years of television, can you imagine how many women, female contestants on MasterChef, have made sexual remarks or sexual innuendo? Can you imagine?
Well, let's talk to media commentator Paul Connew. Paul, good to see you this morning.
Good morning.
Is Gregg Wallace making a valid point there, or would it be better advised to say nothing?
Well, I agree with Anne's remark. If she hadn't said it, I was going to say, when you're in a hole, stop digging. In fact, Gregg Wallace doesn't seem to have ever heard that old saying. I mean, and the middle-class women of a certain age is just so grotesque and insulting. I don't know whether Gregg Wallace has a PR man, but if he had, it's not a very good one, or he's ignoring the advice. This latest little video is only, I think, digging his grave for any future in television. He didn't have one much before, but I think the mountain of allegations and evidence emerging. For example, I mean, I think it's the Sunday Times this morning. I've got an interview with Azamir Mir, who's a presenter on Times Radio, but also in other fields too. And she complained to the BBC back in 2017 about him. And there was an exchange of emails with quite a senior BBC executive called Kate Phillips, which she acknowledged the complaints and said that Gregg Wallace would be spoken to, and this was unacceptable. But again, in 2022, Dawn Elric, a senior producer, which was 4 years after the other complaint, in fact, acknowledged it and said she was acting on behalf of a number of women who had complained through her. But she made the point, which too often individuals, junior staff, freelancers, were too afraid, too intimidated to actually officially complain. So when Gregg Wallace sort of says a handful of women, I said on your programme a few, when the story first broke, that I thought that the number of 13 would actually increase quite sharply, and it obviously has. And so is the evidence now. There are email exchanges. So the idea that the BBC were oblivious to this. I mean, I'm a supporter of the BBC as well as a critic, and that they were oblivious to this just doesn't wash. And the BBC have tried very much to put the ball into the hand, to the court of the independent production company to investigate this, but that isn't good enough either, because we now have clear evidence that allegations were made on a number of occasions, and somehow they weren't really acted upon. He appears to have been told off, but no more than that. And I suspect that this one will carry on escalating a bit, and will also end up, I'll be surprised if it doesn't end up with a parliamentary investigation by the Culture and Media Select Committee.
Well, it's interesting you talk about the culture, because it makes you question the culture within the BBC, even though this programme was made by a separate production company for the BBC. But it does make you wonder about the culture of these big stars who seem to be, some of them, so arrogant when they get to that very big star status that they feel they can get away with anything, and do.
But yes, I mean, I go as far back as being legally thwarted from exposing Savile in '94, and there's a continual pattern where BBC big quotes talent, off quotes, seem to get away with things, and the BBC either turned a blind eye or didn't investigate thoroughly, or thought that some sort of internal warning was good enough. But it's not just the BBC, to be fair. We now know that complaints were made to Channel 5 over his programme, Gregg Wallace's Big Weekend. So this one is escalating, a bit like Topsy. It's going to grow and grow.
OK. Look, we've got to leave it there. Good to see you, Paul. Thanks very much indeed. Well, Gregg Wallace's lawyers strongly deny that he engages in sexually harassing behaviour. The BBC has said it will always listen if people want to make us aware of something directly.
Now at GB News, we love to hear what you think, and we've been asking our poll of the day question, and it's been about the Elgin Marbles. Do you think the Elgin Marbles should be returned to Greece? So far, 24% say yes, 76% say no.
Interesting.
And we'll bring you the live results throughout the day and then the end result in Nana Urquia's show. For all our latest polls and news about polls and how to vote in polls, go to gbnews.com/polls.
Right, time for our biggest and best Great British giveaway that we've ever done. It's £50,000 in tax-free cash. Here's how you enter.
It's the biggest, greatest Great British giveaway so far, with your chance to win a spectacular £50,000 in tax-free cash. 2025 could be amazing, with plenty of treats, holidays and fun on the horizon. How would you enjoy that cash? £50,000 will make someone our biggest ever winner. For another chance to win £50,000 cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Now, do stay tuned, because here's one that we sort of told you about yesterday, and then we wondered, didn't we, if we'd be able to get him on the programme.
Yes, we did.
And we have.
Yes, the viral TikTok sensation, the singing Granddad, Edwin Rayner, will be joining us in just a moment.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camila Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camila Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
My next guest knew George Carman rather intimately. Indeed, he immediately asked her for her hand in marriage when they first met. Karen Phillips knew Carman from 1986 and was a close friend until his death in 2001. Karen has used court transcripts and personal documents to construct her new book, Get Carman. There it is. And here you are. Karen, thank you very much indeed. So you knew him very well, and actually he began to write a little bit of an autobiography just in the weeks before his death. And from those pages, I was struck by the amount of uncertainty that there was about the man. This man who was so confident in court, who charmed juries so famously, but in some ways felt that he was an actor, in some ways felt that he was fighting back nerves and uncertainties. Is that true?
I think he was quite worried about every case. It was much more that he was concerned for the client. He always wanted to do his best. He worked so hard to win a case, not really for his personal satisfaction, but because he didn't want to let people down.
His success rate was extraordinary, and, you know, I'll choose my words carefully here, but shall we say that many people were surprised at the time that Jeremy Thorpe was found not guilty. It was astonishing in the case of Jonathan Aitken, for example, that the principal charge against him, which was that he'd been corrupt in arms dealings, I don't think that was ever actually reached during the court. It seems even more surprising today that people who were employed by Mohammed Fayed were believed in the case of Neil Hamilton. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, his results are extraordinary.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Urquia, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
9:21. We told you yesterday about the 92-year-old singing Granddad. This is what he sounds like.
Islands in a stream, that is what we are. No one in between. How can we be wrong? What happened to those wonderful adventures? Imagine all the people. 'Cause I'm just Ken. Anywhere else I'd be a 10. Is it my destiny to live and die a life of blood?
Oh, it's a voice like honey.
It really is. We're joined by him right now. Edwin Rayner, a very good morning to you and congratulations.
Thank you. Good morning. Well, good morning and thank you.
Yeah. Now, look, I mean, you've got a lovely voice. Honey, as you say. Have you always been a singer?
Yes, I have, yeah. I started as a choir boy. I think I was about 12 when I joined the choir at All Saints Church, yeah. And from there I went on. I was conscripted into the RAF, as we were in those days. And for a little while, when I was doing my square bashing, that's all the training you get when you first get in. There was a dance band on the camp, just boys that were there, and we started singing. Well, I started singing with the dance band, which was great, singing all the songs that were good then. They're still good today, but nobody listens to them. And then from there, when I came out of the RAF, I went for singing lessons because I loved singing, and I spent 2 years having singing lessons. So I learned how to reach the top notes and the lowest notes one's expected to reach when you're a tenor. And then the thrill of it all was I became quite a good tenor soloist, and I sung with choirs. I was invited to sing with different choirs.
You can hear the professionalism in your voice. You can. How did you make these recordings? I mean, because again, the recordings sound professional.
Well, they are professional. Yeah, I go to the Sizzle Studios in Bournemouth, where there's a great guy there, brilliant musician, and we do all the recordings there. Arthur is a brilliant musician, and he will do backing tracks for me and everything else. And every week, I go to Sizzle Studios in Bournemouth, and we perform. We go. My daughter comes with me, and we have a lot of fun. We have a lot of laughs, but we do work hard, and we make professional recordings, and they're the ones that they're on Spotify now. I think they're on, and we're on Apple Music, Amazon Music. I've made 8 CDs, 7 CDs, 8 CDs, I don't know, and I can only distribute them with friends and relatives, of course, because of copyright.
Yes.
But now we read, Edwin, that you're getting permission to sing, or at least requests to sing from Disney, from Michael Bublé, from all this, because you've got 5 million followers on TikTok.
I've got on TikTok, I've not got 5 million. I've got 9 million people that have liked my music. I've got, I think, about 50 million who have listened to me. Yeah. But my actual following on TikTok is nearly 500,000, and my following on Instagram is 150,000. So totally, I've got 600,000 followers.
How does that feel at 92?
Well, it feels absolutely marvellous. I'm very, very lucky, to be honest with you. At 92, to be able to do what I do. I still drive. I do my own housework. I've got so I'm very, very fortunate, and I put it all down to my wonderful wife, who I lost 9 years ago, who was brilliant. She helped me with absolutely everything. And there's one particular song I sing regularly, and I've just done it on TV and one another, "The Wonder of You," and it's a beautiful song, and it just comes out with what I feel about my Margaret and how she was wonderful and how she helped me, absolutely doing everything. And
are you recording anything special for Christmas?
Well, I've been asked to do some Christmas carols. So, yes, I am. Now, don't ask me what characters I'm going to do because I haven't really made up my mind, but there will be the very popular ones, Silent Night and, all the very popular carols. And, yeah, I've been asked many times to do some this Christmas.
Well, it's fantastic to be so popular. Wow.
You're a remarkable man with, as I say, a golden honey voice.
Yeah,
and it's
you
a
really
joy
are.
to talk to you, Edwin. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
And
Thank you
happy
very
Christmas.
much.
Yes, happy
Thank
Christmas.
you. Same to you and all your listeners.
Thank
you.
The viewers, perhaps I should say.
Well, viewers and listeners, you're all right. What a lovely man. Thank you.
Thank you. That's wonderful.
All right, and on that note, we've got to very rapidly leave you, I'm afraid, because Camila Tominey is going to be here in just a minute.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Joined by international life coach Cheryl Findlay, who has joined forces with a Liverpool business owner, Kate Hill, of sustainable sportswear brand Lola Star, to empower women and inspire women across the nation. And to celebrate this partnership with the new Lola Star collection, the two will be hosting an exclusive event next Saturday.
The sportswear brand was launched after, well, your story. You lost how much weight?
So 16 stone, which is over £220.